cut out the noise and crush your goals. Introduction. Have you ever felt like you're drowning in a sea of endless tasks, notifications, and commitments, working harder than ever but somehow falling further behind? You're not alone. In fact, you're experiencing what I call the modern paradox of achievement. The more opportunities we have, the less we seem to accomplish. Let me share a story that might feel familiar. Alex had everything that supposedly marked success: a prestigious position as VP of product at a promising Silicon Valley startup, a 7-figure salary, and a resume that would make most professionals envious. But beneath the surface, he was drowning. Alex's typical day started at 5 a.m. with an overflowing inbox. His calendar was packed with back-to-back meetings. He juggled 3 different project management tools. His phone buzzed constantly with Slack notifications, texts, and emails. Every night he'd collapse into bed past midnight, exhausted but feeling like he'd accomplished nothing. "I was doing everything the productivity gurus recommended," Alex told me. "I had morning routines, to-do lists, time-blocking systems, you name it. But it felt like I was on a hamster wheel, running faster and faster without getting anywhere." The breaking point came during a crucial product launch. Despite working 80-hour weeks, Alex's team missed their deadline. The project that should have taken 3 months stretched into 9. It wasn't because they weren't working hard enough. They were working too hard on too many things. What happened next transformed not just Alex's approach to work, but his entire life. Through a process of strategic elimination that you'll learn in this book, Alex did something radical. He started doing less. Much less. The results. Within 6 months, his team launched 2 major products, more than they'd accomplished in the previous 3 years combined. This book isn't about adding more productivity hacks to your already overwhelming life. It's about mastering the single most crucial skill for extraordinary achievement in today's hyper-connected world: strategic elimination. You've already taken the first step by clicking on this audiobook. That alone shows you're ready for a different approach, one that measures success not by how much you can add to your plate, but by how much you can strategically eliminate. What you're about to learn isn't just another set of productivity tips. It's a complete reimagining of how to achieve extraordinary results in a world designed to distract you. Through proven strategies and practical applications, you'll discover why less truly is more, but only when you eliminate the right things, in the right way, at the right time. Are you ready to cut through the noise and finally achieve what matters most? Chapter 1. The Noise Epidemic. The gentle hum of fluorescent lights mixed with the constant ping of notifications created a familiar symphony in Miguel's downtown Seattle office. His screen displayed 3 different chat windows, an email client with 147 unread messages, and a half-finished piece of code that would revolutionize data encryption, if he could ever find enough uninterrupted time to complete it. "Just 5 more minutes," Miguel whispered to himself, fingers hovering over the keyboard as another Slack notification popped up in the corner of his screen. This was his 4th attempt today to work on his startup's core product. Each previous attempt had been derailed by what his colleagues called quick questions or brief sync-ups that somehow always expanded into 30-minute discussions. Miguel had already tried everything the productivity experts recommended. He'd set up detailed time-blocking schedules, installed website blockers and focus apps, created elaborate systems of folders and filters, even started waking up at 5 a.m. for deep work sessions. Yet somehow the noise always found a way to break through. His dream of launching his own startup was starting to feel like a mirage, always visible on the horizon, but impossible to reach. The day's breaking point came during a crucial debugging session. Just as Miguel was about to identify a critical error in his code, his phone buzzed with the urgent request from marketing. Teams lit up with 3 consecutive messages from his project manager. Email notifications cascaded down his screen like digital raindrops. His smartwatch vibrated with a reminder about an upcoming meeting. In that moment of overwhelming digital chaos, Miguel realized he wasn't just fighting distractions. He was losing a battle against an invisible epidemic that was silently killing his dreams. This scene plays out millions of times each day across offices, homes, and coffee shops worldwide. We've entered an era where the very tools designed to make us more productive have become the biggest threats to our success. This is what I call the noise epidemic. To understand just how profound this problem has become, look at these stark realities. The average knowledge worker is interrupted every 11 minutes. It takes 23 minutes to fully regain focus after each interruption. We check our phones 96 times per day. That's once every 10 minutes. But perhaps no one understood the true cost of this epidemic better than Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella, who faced the ultimate challenge: transforming a tech giant that many had written off as a relic of the past. When Nadella took the helm in 2014, Microsoft was losing ground to more agile competitors. The company's culture was drowning in meetings, emails, and what he called digital busy work. Nadella's response shocked many in the tech world. Instead of adding more productivity tools or communication channels, he did the opposite. He implemented what became known as notification-free focus blocks, mandatory periods where all notifications were disabled company-wide. The scarcest resource in business isn't capital, it's attention, Nadella explained during a company-wide meeting. We're not just competing with other companies, we're competing with noise itself. The results were remarkable. Developer productivity increased by 47% during focus blocks. Strategic decision-making improved significantly. Employee satisfaction scores rose to record levels. Microsoft's stock price tripled within 5 years. But Nadella's insight wasn't just about corporate productivity. It revealed a fundamental truth about human achievement in the digital age. Our capacity for greatness isn't limited by our abilities, but by our ability to protect our attention from noise. This brings us to a crucial tool I've developed called the Noise Audit Framework. To illustrate its power, let me share Elena's story. Elena was a marketing executive at a fast-growing startup, working 60-hour weeks but feeling constantly behind. Her typical day was a blur of meetings, emails, and urgent requests. She was good at her job, but her best ideas, the creative campaigns that could truly move the needle, remained stuck in her head, casualties of constant interruption. Using the Noise Audit Framework, Elena tracked every interruption for 1 week, categorizing them into 4 types: external noise, environmental interruptions; internal noise, self-generated distractions; social noise, unnecessary meetings and conversations; strategic noise, misaligned activities. The results were eye-opening. Elena discovered that 67% of her interruptions were non-urgent Slack messages. She was attending 12 recurring meetings that could be handled via email. Her open door policy was costing her 2.5 hours of deep work time daily. She checked her email 122 times per day on average. Armed with this data, Elena implemented strategic elimination. She reduced Slack channels from 28 to 8, consolidated 12 weekly meetings into 3, established closed-door focus blocks from 9:11 a.m., batch processed emails 3 times daily. Within 1 month, Elena's meaningful work output increased by 40%. More importantly, she finally launched the innovative campaign she'd been dreaming about for months, leading to the company's most successful quarter ever. Your journey to breaking free from the noise epidemic starts with awareness. Right now, I want you to do something that might feel uncomfortable, but will prove illuminating. For the next 60 minutes, keep a simple tally of every single interruption you experience. Include everything. Every notification. Every time you check your phone. Each quick question from a colleague. Every time your mind wanders to check social media. Any environmental distraction that breaks your focus. Don't try to change your behavior. Just observe and record. This simple exercise will reveal the true scope of noise in your life and prepare you for the deeper work we'll do in the coming chapters. Remember, The first step to eliminating noise isn't adding another productivity system or downloading another app. It's developing a clear-eyed awareness of just how much noise is truly costing you. Chapter 2. The Myth of More. The fluorescent lights of Daniel's once bustling fitness studio cast long shadows across empty workout spaces. Just 6 months ago, he'd been featured in Entrepreneur magazine as the next big thing in fitness. Now, he sat alone at his desk, staring at a spreadsheet that told an uncomfortable truth. His business was 3 weeks away from insolvency. Daniel had followed every piece of conventional wisdom about growing a business. The result? Revenue had plummeted by 40%, while expenses had doubled. His star trainers were burning out, and longtime members were leaving, complaining that the studio had lost its soul. "I don't understand," Daniel muttered, running his hands through his hair. "I'm doing everything right. I'm doing more than ever before. How can we be failing?" The answer would come from an unexpected source, his 67-year-old mother, who'd been quietly observing his struggle. Over Sunday dinner, she asked him a simple question that would change everything. "When did you last teach your signature HIT class, the one that made people fall in love with this place in the first place?" Daniel couldn't remember. He'd been too busy scaling the business to actually do what he did best. This is the myth of more in action, the deeply ingrained belief that success is directly proportional to quantity. More products, more services, more content, more goals. It's a seductive lie that's claimed countless victims, from struggling entrepreneurs to Fortune 500 companies. But perhaps no one understood and challenged this myth more effectively than Steve Jobs during his legendary return to Apple in 1997. When Jobs walked back into Apple's headquarters, he found a company drowning in more. Apple was producing dozens of products across multiple categories, each with countless variations. The company was hemorrhaging money and losing market share daily. Jobs' first action shocked everyone. He eliminated 70% of Apple's product line. In a single meeting, he stood at a whiteboard and drew a simple 2x2 grid. "We need 4 great products. That's it," he declared. The room erupted in protests about market share, competitor offerings, and revenue streams. Jobs' response was characteristically blunt. Innovation is saying no to 1,000 things. He understood what many leaders still struggle to grasp. Excellence requires elimination. The results were historic. What Jobs intuitively understood was a principle that neuroscience would later confirm. Our brains have a finite capacity for excellence. This isn't just about time management. It's about cognitive bandwidth. Every additional goal, project, or commitment doesn't just divide our time. It exponentially increases the cognitive load required to maintain quality across all areas. This brings us to what I call the effectiveness equation. Impact. Focus x energy divided by the number of goals. This simple formula reveals a profound truth. Your potential impact decreases with each additional goal or commitment. It's not linear, it's exponential. Adding a new goal doesn't just divide your resources by one more unit. It creates new complexity that drains focus and energy across all areas. No one understood this better than Jenny, a third-year medical resident at Boston General Hospital. Like many high achievers, Jenny had always excelled at everything she attempted. She was determined to be. 6 months into her residency, she was on the verge of burnout. Her patient satisfaction scores were dropping, and her attending physicians noted that her clinical judgment seemed rushed and uncertain. The turning point came during a particularly challenging week when she made a near-fatal medication error, caught just in time by a nurse. Shaken, she realized she needed to make a radical change. Working with her chief resident, Jenny made a bold decision. She would become strategically mediocre in non-essential areas. This meant, instead, she would focus her energy on what mattered most: direct patient care and developing clinical excellence in her chosen specialty. The transformation was remarkable. Within 2 months, Jenny's story illustrates a counterintuitive truth. Strategic mediocrity in some areas is often the price of true excellence in what matters most. This isn't about lowering standards. It's about raising them where they truly count. This brings us to a crucial exercise I call the Moore Trap Audit. Take out a piece of paper and draw 3 columns. In the first column, list every area where you're currently trying to excel. In the second column, write the real cost of that pursuit, in time, energy, and focus. In the third column, honestly assess whether excellence in that area truly serves your core goals. Look for patterns. Where are you subscribing to the myth of more? Where have you unconsciously bought into the belief that adding more will lead to better results? Remember Daniel from our opening story? His Moore Trap audit revealed something surprising. 80% of his revenue still came from the 3 original class formats he'd started with. The more he'd added wasn't just failing to help, it was actively harming his core business. Daniel made a bold decision. Within 3 months, his business had not only stabilized, but was growing again. More importantly, the energy in the studio had returned. Members spoke about feeling seen again, and his trainers reported feeling reinvigorated. The lesson is clear. Excellence isn't about doing more things. It's about doing the right things with complete focus and energy. Every yes you say divides your resources. Every additional goal dilutes your potential for true excellence. As you move through your day today, I want you to become aware of your own Moore traps. Notice where you've unconsciously subscribed to the belief that adding more will lead to better results. Ask yourself. The answers might make you uncomfortable. They should. Breaking free from the myth of more requires courage. It means being willing to be strategically mediocre in some areas so you can be truly extraordinary in what matters most. Chapter 3. Your Clarity Compass. The stage lights dimmed as 7-year-old Sophie took her place at the piano. Her small fingers hovered over the keys, waiting for her cue. In the audience, an empty seat marked where her father, James, should have been sitting. Instead, James was in his parked car outside the recital hall, frantically responding to a cascade of urgent emails about a potential client merger. His laptop balanced precariously on the steering wheel, phone buzzing incessantly with notifications. He glanced at the time. 7:42 p.m. The recital had started 12 minutes ago. "Just 5 more minutes," he muttered, the same words he'd been repeating for the past hour. "I just need to handle these fires, then I'll go in." By the time James finally entered the hall, Sophie was taking her final bow. Their eyes met across the room, hers glistening with tears, his filled with shame. In that moment, something broke inside him. This wasn't a time management problem. This wasn't about being more productive or efficient. This was about something far more fundamental: his complete inability to distinguish between what truly mattered and what was just noise. That night, after tucking Sophie into bed with tearful apologies, James sat in his home office surrounded by sticky notes, calendar notifications, and endless to-do lists. "I'm drowning," he whispered to himself. But in what? The answer to James's question, and perhaps yours, lies in understanding a fundamental truth about modern life. We're not really struggling with time management. We're struggling with noise management. The constant barrage of inputs, expectations, and demands has created a fog so thick that we can no longer see our true north. This is where the Clarity Compass comes in. A revolutionary framework that I've developed after studying how world-class performers maintain laser focus in a world of endless distraction. But perhaps no example better illustrates its power than the story of Michael Phelps, the most decorated Olympian of all time. When Bob Bowman began coaching Phelps, he realized something crucial. The difference between good and great wouldn't be found in adding more training hours or new techniques. Instead, it would come from systematically eliminating 4 specific types of noise that prevent peak performance. Most coaches focus on what to add to an athlete's routine, Bowman explained in a rare interview. We focused on what to eliminate. Every potential distraction was categorized and systematically removed. This systematic elimination approach led to what Phelps calls his bubble of excellence, a mental and physical space so free of noise that perfect performance became almost inevitable. As Phelps himself noted, the difference between good and great isn't adding more training, it's eliminating everything that doesn't serve the goal. The results speak for themselves. 28 Olympic medals, 23 of them gold. But the Clarity Compass isn't just for Olympic athletes. Take Maya, owner of a small digital marketing agency in Seattle. When Maya first reached out for consulting, her agency was generating healthy revenue, but she was working 70-hour weeks and constantly feeling overwhelmed. "I'm doing everything right," she insisted. "I'm hustling, networking, taking every opportunity, but I feel like I'm moving backward." Using the Clarity Compass, Maya began systematically identifying and eliminating noise in each direction. External noise audit. Maya discovered she was receiving 187 notifications per day across various platforms. Her quick checks of email and Slack were consuming 3.2 hours daily. Her solution: internal noise audit. Through careful tracking, Maya realized she was spending nearly 2 hours daily worrying about competitors and second-guessing her decisions. Her solution: social noise audit. Maya found that quick coffee meetings and pick-your-brain sessions were consuming 35% of her work week. Her solution: strategic noise audit. Analysis revealed that 80% of her profits came from just 2 types of services, yet she was offering 7. Her solution: the results were transformative. Within 6 months, most importantly, Maya reported feeling in control for the first time since starting her business. "The Clarity Compass didn't just help me manage my time better," she explained. "It helped me recognize what actually deserved my time in the first place." This brings us to your Compass Calibration Challenge, a 5-day experiment designed to help you identify and eliminate noise in each direction. Day 1. External noise baseline. Day 2. Internal noise awareness. Day 3. Social noise mapping. Day 4. Strategic noise analysis. Day 5. Integration. For each day, use the following reflection protocol. Remember James from our opening story? After completing the Compass Calibration Challenge, he made some radical changes. 6 months later, James attended another of Sophie's recitals. This time, he sat in the front row, phone turned off, fully present as his daughter played. Her performance wasn't perfect, she missed a few notes, but her smile when she saw him beaming in the audience was flawless. That's the real power of the Clarity Compass. It's not just about being more productive or efficient. It's about eliminating the noise that keeps us from what truly matters. It's about creating space for excellence in the areas of life that count most. Chapter 4. The External Noise Trap. As the founder of Twitter and ex-CEO of Block, formerly Square, Dorsey faces more potential distractions than most. His solution? Every Wednesday, he completely eliminates all external inputs. No phone, no email, no meetings, no notifications. Nothing but focused work on his most important priorities. "People often ask me how I manage to run 2 companies," Dorsey shared during a rare interview about his work habits. "The truth is, I don't manage time. I manage attention. And the key to attention management is elimination, not addition." Dorsey's approach might seem extreme, but the results speak for themselves. Under this system, he's been able to effectively lead 2 major technology companies simultaneously, making decisions that impact millions of users and billions in revenue. His famous quote captures the essence of external noise management. "Discipline is choosing between what you want now and what you want most." But what exactly is external noise? It's any input from your environment that pulls your attention away from your intended focus. This includes digital interruptions, notifications, alerts, emails, messages, and any other technology-based disruptions that fragment your attention. Environmental distractions, background conversations, office noise, visual clutter, and any physical elements that compete for your attention. Activity switching, the constant jumping between tasks, platforms, and contexts that prevents deep focus from developing. Information overload, the endless stream of news, updates, and information that overwhelms your cognitive capacity. The cost of external noise goes far beyond mere distraction. Each interruption creates what psychology researchers call attention residue, a cognitive aftermath that continues to impact your performance even after the interruption ends. This is why checking just one quick email can derail your productivity for the next half hour. Let's talk about Thomas, a high school physics teacher in Portland who transformed his classroom using what I call the zone of silence protocol. Thomas noticed his students struggling with basic concepts despite being bright and motivated. After observing their behavior patterns, he realized they were exhibiting the same symptoms of attention fragmentation that plague most adults. These kids were trying to learn quantum mechanics while their phones buzzed in their pockets, Thomas explained. Their brains never had a chance to develop the neural pathways necessary for deep understanding. Instead of fighting a losing battle against technology, Thomas redesigned his classroom experience around strategic silence periods. He divided each 50-minute class into 3 segments: 15 minutes of instruction, 25 minutes of complete silence for focused problem solving, all devices in a designated phone parking lot, and 10 minutes of active discussion. The results were remarkable. Within 1 semester, student test scores improved by 40%. Homework completion rates increased from 65% to 94%. Student-reported stress levels decreased by 33%. Class participation rose dramatically, particularly among previously quiet students. The most surprising outcome, Thomas noted, wasn't the improved academic performance. It was watching these teenagers discover their own capacity for focused thought. Many of them had never experienced true concentration before. The success of Thomas's experiment highlights a crucial truth. Our relationship with external noise isn't just a productivity issue. It's a fundamental barrier to reaching our potential. Every notification we allow, every interruption we accept, every distraction we tolerate is quietly eroding our ability to think deeply, create meaningfully, and achieve remarkably. This brings us to the Zone of Silence protocol, a systematic approach to creating spaces of pristine focus in your daily life. The protocol consists of 3 key elements: environmental design, creating physical spaces that support focused work. This means eliminating visual clutter, establishing dedicated work zones, and removing common distraction triggers from your environment. Digital architecture, restructuring your technology setup to serve your goals rather than sabotage them. This includes notification management, app organization, and strategic use of Do Not Disturb features. Temporal boundaries, establishing clear timeframes for different types of cognitive work, including specific periods of complete digital silence. To help you begin implementing this protocol, I've designed the 24-hour notification audit challenge. This simple but powerful exercise will help you understand your current relationship with external noise and experience the immediate benefits of strategic elimination. Here's how it works. For the next 24 hours, turn off all non-essential notifications. This means keep only truly crucial notifications active, like calls from immediate family or critical work communications. Throughout the day, maintain a simple journal tracking 3 elements. This challenge isn't about permanent elimination. It's about understanding. Understanding how external noise affects your focus, your productivity, and your peace of mind. Understanding the difference between truly important communications and habitual distractions. Understanding what's possible when you create space for your best work to emerge. The insights you gain from this 24-hour experiment will serve as your foundation for implementing broader changes in how you manage external noise. You might discover, as Rachel did, that what you thought was a time management problem was actually an attention management crisis. Remember, the goal isn't to eliminate all external inputs. That would be neither practical nor desirable in our connected world. The goal is to transform from being a passive recipient of endless noise into an active architect of your attention, to move from a state of constant reactivity to one of intentional engagement. As Jack Dorsey reminds us, the most valuable resource in our modern economy isn't time or money, it's sustained attention. By learning to manage external noise effectively, you're not just improving your productivity. You're reclaiming your power to think deeply, create freely, and live intentionally. Your journey toward freedom from external noise begins with awareness. The 24-hour notification audit is your first step. Are you ready to discover what's possible in the silence? Chapter 5: The Internal Noise Battle. Kai stood in his tiny apartment kitchen, hands trembling as he held the acceptance letter from the small business loan office. After 15 years of working in other people's restaurants, he finally had the funding to open his own place. This should have been a moment of triumph. Instead, the voices in his head grew louder with each passing second. You're not ready for this. What if you fail and lose everything? There are so many better chefs out there. Who do you think you are? The voices were so overwhelming that he could barely hear the timer going off, signaling that his signature miso-glazed black cod, the dish that had won him multiple local cooking competitions, was done. As the fish began to overcook, Kai realized that his worst enemy wasn't the fierce competition in the restaurant industry or the challenging economic climate. It was the deafening chorus of self-doubt in his own mind. The internal noise that plagued Kai is something we all face. While external distractions can be managed with the right systems and boundaries, the noise that comes from within often proves far more challenging to control. It's like trying to silence an orchestra playing inside your head. Just when you quiet one instrument, another seems to play even louder. This brings us to one of the most powerful examples of internal noise management in professional sports: Serena Williams' remarkable journey to master her mental game. While many know Williams for her physical prowess on the tennis court, few understand the intense internal battle she fought throughout her career. In a revealing conversation with her mental performance coach, Dr. James Thompson, Williams shared how the biggest challenge wasn't the screaming crowds or the pressure of championship points. It was the constant internal commentary that threatened to derail her focus during crucial moments. People see the external pressure of playing in front of thousands, Williams explained, but they don't hear the voice in your head that questions every decision, that replays every mistake, that whispers "what if" before every serve. The biggest noise isn't from the crowd, it's from the voices in your own head. Working with Dr. Thompson, Williams developed what became known as the clear court technique, a systematic approach to managing internal noise during high-stakes moments. The technique wasn't about eliminating self-talk entirely, which is neither possible nor desirable, but about developing the ability to distinguish between productive internal dialogue and destructive mental chatter. The breakthrough came, Dr. Thompson shared, when Serena stopped trying to silence her inner voice and instead learned to redirect it. We developed a system where she could quickly identify whether a thought was serving her performance or sabotaging it. This distinction between productive internal dialogue and destructive mental noise is crucial for understanding how to manage our own internal soundscape. Internal noise isn't just negative self-talk. It's any mental activity that pulls us away from our intended focus and diminishes our effectiveness. The four main categories of internal noise include: here's Andrea, a talented digital artist who spent years creating beautiful work that never left her computer. Despite having a portfolio that impressed everyone who saw it, she couldn't bring herself to submit to galleries or even share her work online. The internal noise of perfectionism and self-doubt had effectively imprisoned her talent. I had this constant internal monologue telling me my work wasn't good enough, Andrea recalled. Every time I considered showing my art, the voices would start. It needs more work. No one will understand it. You'll embarrass yourself. It was exhausting. Andrea's breakthrough came when she learned to implement what I call the thought traffic control method, a systematic approach to managing internal noise that builds on the insights from high performers like Serena Williams while making them accessible for everyday use. The method consists of 3 key components: awareness, learning to recognize internal noise patterns without getting caught in them; classification, quickly determining whether a thought is serving your goals or hindering them; redirection, having specific protocols for managing different types of mental chatter. Using this system, Andrea developed a simple but effective protocol for her creative process. When she noticed internal noise rising, she would ask herself 3 questions. These questions helped her distinguish between constructive creative critique and destructive mental chatter. Within 6 months of implementing this system, Andrea had completed enough pieces for her first gallery collection and successfully launched her professional career as an artist. "The noise didn't go away completely," Andrea explained, "but I learned to see it for what it was, just noise. It no longer had the power to stop me from sharing my work with the world." Andrea's experience highlights a crucial truth about internal noise. The goal isn't to eliminate it entirely, but to develop the ability to work effectively despite its presence. Just as a skilled pilot learns to fly through turbulence, we must learn to pursue our goals even when our internal environment is less than calm. This brings us to the practical application of these principles in your own life. Over the next 5 days, I invite you to participate in what I call the Morning Pages Challenge, a gentle but powerful exercise designed to help you identify and manage your own patterns of internal noise. Here's how it works. Each morning, before checking any devices or starting your day's tasks, spend exactly 10 minutes doing a complete brain dump of whatever's on your mind. Don't edit, don't judge, just write whatever comes up, especially the thoughts you'd rather not acknowledge. After the brain dump, take 2 minutes to answer these 3 questions. The power of this exercise lies not in doing it perfectly, but in doing it consistently. Each day's practice builds your awareness of your internal noise patterns and strengthens your ability to manage them effectively. Remember Kai, the chef from our opening story? He eventually implemented his own version of the thought traffic control method. Every morning before entering his kitchen, he would take 5 minutes to write down all his fears and doubts. Then he would ask himself one simple question: would a great chef let these thoughts stop them from cooking? The answer was always no. Today, Kai's restaurant is not only surviving, but thriving. The internal noise hasn't disappeared completely. It still shows up during particularly challenging service nights or when trying new dishes. But it no longer has the power to override his confidence or creativity. "The voices still speak," Kai shared, "but now I decide whether to listen." This is the essence of mastering internal noise, not achieving perfect mental silence, but developing the ability to choose which internal voices deserve our attention and which ones we can simply acknowledge and let pass by. Chapter 6. The Social Noise Factor. Unlike external noise, which we can often control through physical boundaries, or internal noise, which we can learn to manage through mental discipline, social noise comes wrapped in relationships we value and opinions we feel obligated to consider. It's a particular challenge in our hyper-connected world, where everyone's thoughts are just a text message away, and where the line between helpful feedback and harmful interference has become increasingly blurred. The result? A kind of social paralysis where the very networks meant to support us can actually impede our progress. This brings us to one of the most fascinating case studies in social noise management: Ed Sheeran's radical approach to creative focus during the creation of his breakthrough album, X. While most artists in his position were increasing their social media presence and expanding their networks, Sheeran made the counterintuitive decision to eliminate his smartphone entirely and limit his social circle to just 5 people. "Everyone thought I was crazy," Sheeran revealed in a rare interview about this period. The industry pushes you to be more connected, more available. But I realized I'd rather have 5 real conversations than 500 surface ones. The quality of my work skyrocketed when I stopped trying to please everyone and started protecting my creative space. What makes Sheeran's example particularly powerful is that it wasn't about becoming a recluse or cutting off all social contact. Instead, it was about making conscious choices about who had access to his mental and creative energy. He maintained deep, meaningful relationships with a select group while creating healthy boundaries with everyone else. The results spoke for themselves. During this period of intentional social isolation, Sheeran wrote some of his most successful songs and produced work that would define his career. His experience highlights a crucial truth about achievement. Sometimes the path to greater success requires less social input, not more. This principle extends far beyond creative work. Consider Linda, a first-time mother who found herself overwhelmed by the tsunami of parenting advice that arrived with her newborn daughter. Every relative, friend, and random stranger seemed to have strong opinions about everything from feeding schedules to sleep training. It got to the point where I couldn't make a single decision without second-guessing myself, Linda shared. Everyone had different advice, and they all claimed their way was the right way. I felt like I was failing no matter what I chose. Linda's breakthrough came when she implemented what I call the relationship resonance framework, a systematic approach to managing social noise while preserving important relationships. The framework consists of 3 key elements. For Linda, this meant first categorizing the various sources of parenting input in her life: inner circle, her pediatrician, her mother, who respected her choices, and her best friend, an experienced mother who offered support without judgment. Outer circle, well-meaning relatives and friends who provided occasional useful insights but needed to be filtered. Noise circle, random acquaintances, social media contacts, and others whose opinions could be safely ignored. She then created specific protocols for each category. For her inner circle, she set up regular check-ins where she could actively seek advice when needed. For the outer circle, she developed a polite but firm way of acknowledging input without feeling obligated to follow it. Thank you for sharing that perspective. I'll keep it in mind as we figure out what works best for our family. For the noise circle, she simply reduced her exposure, unfollowing certain social media accounts, limiting her time in parenting forums, and giving herself permission to walk away from unsolicited advice situations. The framework didn't just help me make better decisions, Linda explained. It gave me permission to trust my instincts while still maintaining important relationships. I learned that I could be grateful for people's intentions without letting their opinions override my own judgment. Linda's experience highlights a crucial distinction in managing social noise. The goal isn't to eliminate all outside input, but to create systems that allow us to benefit from genuine wisdom while filtering out unhelpful chatter. This brings us to the practical application of these principles in your own life. Over the next 3 days, I invite you to participate in the social circle mapping exercise, a powerful tool for visualizing and managing the social noise in your life. Here's how it works. Day 1. Draw 2 concentric circles on a piece of paper. In the inner circle, list the relationships that consistently energize and support your goals. These are the people whose input genuinely helps you move forward. In the outer circle, list relationships that often create noise or confusion in your decision-making process. Day 2. For each relationship in both circles, note the typical type of interaction. Day 3. Create specific protocols for managing each type of relationship, similar to Linda's approach. Remember, the goal isn't to cut people off, but to create healthy boundaries that protect your focus while preserving relationships. The power of this exercise lies in its visual nature. Seeing your relationships mapped out often provides immediate clarity about where your social noise is coming from and how to manage it more effectively. As you begin your social circle mapping exercise, remember that this isn't about judging relationships as good or bad. It's about understanding their impact on your clarity and decision-making ability. Some of the noisiest relationships in your life might be with people you deeply care about, and that's okay. The goal is to develop systems that allow you to maintain those relationships while protecting your ability to think clearly and act decisively. Think of this exercise as a first step toward what Ed Sheeran discovered: that sometimes the most supportive social network isn't the largest or loudest, but the one that gives you the clarity and space to pursue your vision. Chapter 7: The Strategic Noise Challenge. Anthony sat in his home studio, surrounded by the latest gear, multiple monitors displaying his growing social media following, and walls covered in networking event badges. His phone buzzed with another notification. Someone had shared his latest "Day in the Life of a Musician" video. He should have felt accomplished. Instead, an uncomfortable realization was taking root. Opening his production software, he stared at the last project file he'd saved. The date stamp hit him like a physical blow. 18 months ago. 18 months of building his platform, growing his audience, and establishing his brand. And not a single new song to show for it. When did I stop being a musician, he wondered, and become a full-time content creator about being a musician? His calendar was packed with activities that looked impressive on paper: podcast appearances, collaboration meetings, social media engagement blocks, networking events, and endless content creation sessions. He was busier than ever, but the music, the one thing that had driven him to this path in the first place, had somehow become an afterthought. This scenario plays out across every industry and endeavor. It's what I call the strategic noise trap, where supposedly beneficial activities gradually drown out the core actions that actually move us toward our goals. Unlike external or social noise, strategic noise is particularly dangerous because it masquerades as productivity. It feels like progress. It generates metrics we can point to. But ultimately, it pulls us further from our true objectives. Take Susan Wojcicki's transformative decision during her tenure at Google before becoming YouTube's CEO. In a move that shocked many, she spearheaded an initiative to eliminate 60% of Google's promising projects. These weren't failing ventures. Many showed positive metrics and had passionate internal champions. They were, by conventional standards, good projects. Everyone thought I was crazy, Wojcicki revealed in a rare interview about this period. These were innovative projects with dedicated teams and encouraging early results. But I realized that success isn't about how many projects you start. It's about how many you have the courage to kill. Her controversial decision proved prescient. By eliminating dozens of good projects, Google could redirect its resources to a handful of potentially great ones. This strategic elimination played a crucial role in Google's transformation from a search company to a global technology leader. The hardest part wasn't identifying what to cut, Wojcicki explained. It was dealing with the emotional attachment to projects that were working, but weren't serving our ultimate vision. Success required the courage to say no to good opportunities, so we could say yes to great ones. This brings us to Robert's story, a small business owner who discovered the power of strategic elimination in transforming his company's trajectory. Robert ran what appeared to be a successful consulting firm: steady client base, growing team, regular speaking engagements. But despite working 70-hour weeks, profits had plateaued. I was doing everything the business books recommended, Robert shared. Networking, content marketing, social media presence, podcast appearances, writing articles, hosting workshops. I even started a YouTube channel. Every minute was filled with productive activities. Using the strategic noise matrix, a simple but powerful tool for evaluating activities, Robert made a startling discovery. He mapped all his business activities across 2 axes. The results were eye-opening. Many of his most time-consuming activities scored high on immediate return, but low on strategic impact. His YouTube channel, for instance, was growing steadily and generating positive feedback, but hadn't led to a single high-value client. His weekly networking events produced plenty of business cards, but few meaningful relationships. The Matrix forced me to confront an uncomfortable truth, Robert admitted. I was addicted to activities that made me feel productive, but weren't actually moving my business forward. Over the next 3 months, Robert made several bold eliminations. The result? Within 6 months, his revenue increased by 50%, while his working hours dropped to 45 per week. By eliminating strategic noise, he created space to focus on what truly mattered, delivering exceptional value to his core clients and developing innovative solutions to their challenges. The irony is that by doing less, I became known for more, Robert reflected. When you eliminate the noise, even the strategic kind, you create space for real impact. This brings us to the practical application of these principles in your own life. Over the next 3 days, I invite you to participate in the Activity Impact Audit, a revealing exercise that will help you identify and eliminate your own sources of strategic noise. Here's how it works. Day 1. Track every activity. For 24 hours, record every business or career-related activity you engage in. Include everything from checking emails to attending meetings to creating content. Don't judge or analyze, just track. Day 2. Rate each activity. Review your list and rate each activity on 2 scales. Day 3. Analyze the gap. Look for activities that score high on immediate gratification, but low on long-term impact. These are your primary sources of strategic noise. The power of this audit lies in its simplicity. It cuts through the complexity of strategic planning and forces us to confront a basic truth. Not all productive activities are actually productive. Remember Anthony from our opening story. After completing this audit, he made several crucial discoveries. His daily Instagram posts scored high on immediate gratification, 4 or 5, but low on long-term impact, 1-5. His networking events felt productive, 4 or 5, but weren't leading to meaningful musical collaborations, 2-5. Armed with these insights, Anthony made some difficult but transformative changes. He eliminated his morning social media engagement block and replaced it with 2 hours of pure music creation. He cut his content creation schedule from daily to twice weekly, using the freed-up time for actual recording sessions. Most importantly, he developed a simple question to evaluate new opportunities. Will this make me a better musician, or just make me look more like a successful one? Chapter 8. The 90-10 Elimination Rule. Maria clutched her planner, staring at the color-coded schedule that had become both her shield and her prison. Red for AP Physics study blocks, blue for debate team preparation, green for volunteer hours, yellow for piano practice, purple for student council meetings, orange for SAT prep. The rainbow of commitments that had helped her maintain her perfect 4.0 GPA now seemed to blur together, mocking her with their relentless demands. Her hands trembled as she tried to figure out how to squeeze in additional practice for the upcoming regional piano competition, while maintaining her position as captain of the debate team and managing her duties as student council president. The familiar tightness in her chest returned, a sensation she'd been experiencing with increasing frequency over the past months. "I just need to try harder," she whispered to herself, the mantra that had carried her through countless late nights and missed social events. But for the first time, the words rang hollow. That afternoon, during her weekly meeting with Mrs. E., her guidance counselor noticed something was off. Instead of her usual poised demeanor, Maria's eyes were red-rimmed from lack of sleep, and her typically neat appearance showed signs of strain. "Maria," Mrs. said gently, setting aside the college application they were supposed to be reviewing, "what would happen if you weren't perfect at everything?" The question hit Maria like a physical blow. I don't understand. Being perfect is how I got here. It's who I am." Mrs. smiled and pulled out a blank piece of paper. "Let me share something with you that changed my life when I was your age. It's called strategic incompetence, and it might just save you from the burnout I can see coming. This scenario likely resonates with many of you. Whether you're a student like Maria, a professional juggling multiple projects, or an entrepreneur trying to wear every hat in your business, the pressure to excel at everything has become a modern epidemic. It's exhausting, unsustainable, and, most importantly, unnecessary. Enter the 90-10 elimination rule, the counterintuitive principle that 90% of your results come from just 10% of your activities. This isn't just another productivity hack. It's a fundamental reimagining of how we approach excellence. Let's talk about how Beyoncé revolutionized her rehearsal strategy during the preparation for her historic Coachella performance. While most performers try to perfect every element of their show equally, Beyoncé's choreographer, Jaquel Knight, revealed their radically different approach. "Everyone thought we were crazy," Knight shared in a rare behind-the-scenes interview. "Instead of the traditional method of rehearsing every sequence for equal time, we eliminated 90% of what most performers would call essential practice elements. We identified the vital 10%, the moments that would create the most impact, and poured our energy there." This meant completely letting go of certain traditional performance elements that others might consider crucial. Some dance sequences were intentionally simplified. Certain lighting cues were standardized rather than customized. Even some costume changes were eliminated. "Beyoncé understood something profound," Knight explained. "Perfection in everything is impossible. Perfection in the essential is unstoppable." The results speak for themselves. The performance, dubbed Beychella by fans, is widely considered one of the greatest live performances in modern history. By focusing their energy on the vital few elements that would create the most impact, they achieved something extraordinary. This brings us to Peter Zhang's story, a senior software developer at a leading tech company who transformed his career by applying the 90-10 elimination rule in an unexpected way. Peter had always prided himself on being a full-stack developer, someone who could handle every aspect of software development from front-end design to back-end architecture. He spent countless hours keeping up with the latest frameworks, attending every possible technical workshop, and trying to maintain expertise across a dozen different programming languages. "I was exhausted," Peter admitted. "Every week brought new technologies to master, new methodologies to learn. I was drowning in the endless pursuit of being good at everything." The breaking point came during a failed project launch. Despite his broad knowledge base, he couldn't solve a critical performance issue that was causing the application to crash. A colleague with deep specialization in performance optimization fixed the problem in hours. This experience led Peter to implement what he calls the 90-10 focus filter. He made a radical decision: to be intentionally average at most aspects of software development so he could be extraordinary at performance optimization, the area where he could create the most value. "It felt wrong at first," Peter shared, "like I was somehow cheating or letting people down. But then something amazing happened." Over the next 6 months, the results were transformative. Within a year, Peter became known as the go-to expert for performance optimization in his company. His salary increased by 40%. He was invited to speak at specialized conferences. Most importantly, his stress levels dropped dramatically while his impact increased. "The irony is that by choosing to be average at most things, I became exceptional where it actually mattered," Peter reflected. "The 90-10 rule taught me that strategic incompetence isn't just acceptable, it's essential for true excellence." This brings us to the practical application of the 90-10 elimination rule in your own life. The 10% Excellence Challenge is designed to help you identify and focus on the vital few activities that drive the majority of your results. Here's how it works. Day 1. Activity Audit. Make a comprehensive list of everything you do in your professional role. Include every task, responsibility, and commitment. Be thorough. The more complete your list, the more powerful this exercise becomes. Day 2. Impact Analysis. For each activity, ask yourself, Day 3. Core Identification. Based on your analysis, Identify the one activity that creates the most value in your role. This is your 10%, the area where excellence is non-negotiable. Days 4-5. Strategic elimination. Begin systematically reducing effort in non-core areas. Document. Remember Maria from our opening story? After implementing the 90-10 rule with Mrs.'s guidance, she made some bold choices. She dropped from 5 AP classes to 2, focusing deeply on the subjects that aligned with her intended college major. She resigned from student council and limited her extracurriculars to debate team and piano, her true passions. The most surprising thing, Maria shared months later, wasn't that my grades stayed strong or that I finally got enough sleep. It was realizing that being strategically imperfect actually made me more interesting, both to colleges and to myself. She was accepted to her dream school with a personal note from the admissions officer praising her focused passion and self-awareness, qualities that emerged only after she embraced the power of strategic elimination. Your own journey with the 90-10 rule starts with a simple but profound question. What one activity in your work or life creates the most value? What would happen if you poured your energy into becoming truly extraordinary at that one thing, while intentionally choosing to be good enough at everything else? Chapter 9. Decision Minimalism. The kitchen timer buzzed as Olivia reached for her 4th cup of coffee, not yet 11 a.m. Another decision awaited her attention, this time about whether to order the organic tomatoes at double the price or stick with her regular supplier. Her head throbbed. Earlier that morning, she'd already decided on next week's staff schedule, approved 3 special dietary modification requests, chosen a replacement for her broken dishwasher, and handled countless other choices that seemed to multiply by the minute. Something made her pause. Setting down her coffee, she grabbed a notepad and began tracking every single decision she made over the next hour. The results shocked her. 8 inventory-related decisions, 12 staff management choices, 6 menu modification calls, 15 customer service decisions, 9 equipment and maintenance choices, 23 small operational decisions. That was 73 conscious choices in just 1 hour. Extrapolating backward, she realized she'd likely made over 300 decisions since opening the restaurant at 6 a.m. No wonder she felt mentally drained before the lunch rush even began. The real wake-up call came later that afternoon when her chef presented an innovative idea for a seasonal menu overhaul, exactly the kind of strategic decision that could impact her restaurant's future. But after hundreds of minor decisions had depleted her mental energy, all she could muster was a tired, "Let's discuss it later." This scenario likely resonates deeply with you. Whether you're running a business, leading a team, or managing your personal life, you're facing an unprecedented number of daily decisions. The modern world has sold us the lie that more choices equal more freedom. But what if the opposite is true? Consider Mark Zuckerberg's notorious uniform, the same style of gray t-shirt and jeans every day. While often dismissed as a quirky habit of a tech billionaire, it represents a profound understanding of decision science. During Facebook's explosive growth phase, Zuckerberg realized something crucial about decision-making that would transform not just his wardrobe, but the entire company's operational approach. "I really want to clear my life to make it so that I have to make as few decisions as possible about anything except how to best serve this community," Zuckerberg explained in a 2014 Q&A. But the story goes deeper than just clothing choices. In Facebook's early days, the company was making thousands of small decisions daily about features, updates, and user experience. Each decision, while seemingly important, was consuming precious mental bandwidth. Zuckerberg implemented what he called the vital few protocol, identifying the decisions that truly moved the needle and systematically eliminating, automating, or delegating everything else. "The best leaders don't make better decisions. They make fewer decisions," became his mantra. This principle led to a complete restructuring of Facebook's decision-making hierarchy. Teams were empowered to make most operational decisions independently, while leadership focused exclusively on decisions that could significantly impact the company's trajectory. The results were striking. Product development cycles accelerated by 40%. Employee satisfaction scores increased by 28%. Most importantly, when crucial strategic decisions arose, like the acquisition of Instagram, the leadership team had the mental clarity to evaluate the opportunity thoroughly. This brings us to the practical application of decision minimalism in your own life. The Decision Detox Week Challenge is designed to systematically reduce your decision load while improving the quality of the choices you do make. Here's how it works. Day 1. Wardrobe simplification. Select a simple work uniform for the week. Pre-plan all outfits for 7 days. Document the time and mental energy saved each morning. Day 2. Meal standardization. Plan a weekly meal rotation. Pre-decide all lunch choices. Automate grocery orders for staple items. Day 3. Morning routine automation. Create a standardized morning sequence. Eliminate all non-essential morning decisions. Set up systems for automatic daily tasks. Day 4. Work process standardization. Identify recurring decisions in your workflow. Create decision frameworks for common situations. Delegate routine choices to team members. Day 5. Communication protocol. Establish standard response templates. Set clear criteria for saying yes, no to requests. Create automated filters for communication channels. Day 6. Evening routine optimization. Standardize end-of-day procedures. Eliminate evening decision points. Pre-plan next day's key activities. Day 7. Review and systematize. Evaluate which changes had the most impact. Chapter 10. The Power of Strategic Incompetence. Let's talk about Warren Buffett, arguably the greatest investor of all time. Despite running Berkshire Hathaway, one of the world's largest investment firms, Buffett famously avoided technology investments for decades, even during the dot-com boom when everyone else was making fortunes in tech stocks. "I don't invest in what I don't understand," Buffett repeatedly stated, even as critics called him out of touch. While others scrambled to become competent in evaluating tech startups, Buffett remained strategically incompetent in that sector, focusing instead on his circle of competence, businesses with predictable earnings and strong competitive advantages. This wasn't just stubbornness, it was strategic brilliance. When the dot-com bubble burst, Berkshire Hathaway remained unscathed while many competent tech investors lost everything. Buffett's famous quote captures the essence of strategic incompetence. "The difference between successful people and very successful people is that very successful people say no to almost everything." But Buffett's application of strategic incompetence goes beyond just investment choices. Despite running a massive corporation, he intentionally maintains an empty calendar, avoids most meetings, and doesn't use a computer. He's strategically incompetent at many traditional CEO tasks, so he can focus his energy on what he does best: reading, thinking, and making high-stakes investment decisions. "I insist on a lot of time being spent, almost every day, to just sit and think," Buffett explains. "That is very uncommon in American business. I read and think, so I do more reading and thinking and make less impulse decisions than most people in business." This brings us to Nina's story, a graphic designer who transformed her struggling freelance business through strategic incompetence. When Nina started her career, she tried to be everything to every client: logos, websites, social media graphics, business cards, brochures, and more. She was competent at all of these services, but exceptional at none. "I was working 60-hour weeks just to make ends meet," Nina recalled. "Every project required different skills, different software, different processes. I was spread so thin that I couldn't develop true expertise in any area." The turning point came when Nina analyzed her project history and noticed something surprising. Her brand identity projects not only brought in the highest revenue, but also generated the most referrals and positive feedback. Yet these projects only accounted for 20% of her time because she was busy being competent at everything else. Nina made a radical decision. She implemented what she called the incompetence advantage framework. Core focus identification. Listed all current services. Analyzed revenue per hour for each service. Tracked client satisfaction and referral rates. Identified which work energized her versus drained her. Strategic elimination. Stopped offering website design completely. Removed social media graphics from her services. Declined brochure and business card projects. Focused exclusively on brand identity design. Deliberate incompetence. Let her skills in other areas become outdated. Stopped learning new design software unless directly related to branding. Referred non-branding work to other designers. Became comfortable saying, "I don't do that," to potential clients. The results were transformative. Her income tripled within 18 months. Work hours decreased from 60 to 35 per week. Client satisfaction scores improved dramatically. She became known as the go-to expert for brand identity in her market. Referrals increased by 400%. The most surprising benefit, Nina shared, was how liberating it felt to stop trying to be good at everything. When clients asked about websites or social media, I could confidently say, "That's not my expertise, but I know someone who's amazing at it." They respected my focus, and it actually led to more brand identity work. To help you implement strategic incompetence in your own life and career, I've developed the Strategic Incompetence Diary exercise. This 5-day journaling process will help you identify areas where being strategically incompetent could actually accelerate your success. Day 1. Task inventory. List every task you perform regularly. Note how much time each takes. Rate each task's impact on your goals, 1 to 10. Mark your energy level after each task, 1-10. Day 2. Competence analysis. For each task, ask, does this truly require my expertise? Am I doing this out of habit or obligation? Would my goals suffer if I stop doing this? Could someone else do this as well or better? Day 3. Impact mapping. Categorize each task as E. Eliminate. Tasks that add little value. D. Delegate. Important tasks others could handle. M. Master. Core tasks worth your full focus. Day 4. Resistance exploration. For each E and D task, examine. Why do I keep doing this? What's the worst that could happen if I stopped? Who might be disappointed? How could I manage that disappointment? Day 5. Action planning. Create your strategic incompetence plan. List tasks you'll stop doing immediately. Identify skills you'll let lapse. Plan how to communicate these changes. Set specific dates for elimination or delegation. For each day's entries, include your emotional response to letting go, anticipated challenges and solutions, potential opportunities created by focusing, resources needed for successful transition. Remember, strategic incompetence isn't about being lazy or irresponsible. It's about making a conscious choice to be exceptional at what matters most by being deliberately average, or even below average, at everything else. Chapter 11. The Focus Filter. Marcus stared at his laptop screen, the harsh reality displayed in black and white. His third novel had sold fewer copies in its first month than his previous books had sold in their first week. After 2 bestsellers, this wasn't just a disappointment. It was a crisis of identity. The reviews weren't even bad. They were worse. They were indifferent. Trying to do too much, one critic wrote. Lost focus of what made his earlier works compelling. Desperate for answers, Marcus found himself binge-watching Netflix one sleepless night when something caught his attention. Despite having thousands of titles, Netflix showed him only a tiny fraction of their content, and somehow, Most of it interested him. Intrigued, he began researching Netflix's recommendation algorithm, discovering that it systematically eliminates 99% of content to present users with only what truly matters to them. This revelation hit him like a lightning bolt. His first 2 books had been tightly focused thrillers, while his third attempted to weave together multiple genres: romance, mystery, political intrigue, and family drama. In trying to appeal to everyone, he'd connected with no one. He'd violated the fundamental principle that Netflix had mastered: the power of strategic elimination. The science behind focused elimination finds its most compelling demonstration in the revolutionary training system of NBA superstar Stephen Curry. Traditional basketball training typically involves dozens of different drills, covering every possible scenario a player might encounter. But Curry's trainer, Brandon Payne, took a radically different approach. "We eliminated 80% of traditional basketball drills," Payne reveals. "Instead, we designed a system of high-leverage movements that directly corresponded to Curry's unique playing style and strengths." This wasn't just about working hard. It was about working hard on exactly the right things. The results speak for themselves. Curry revolutionized basketball, becoming the greatest shooter in NBA history. His famous quote encapsulates the essence of the focus filter: "Everybody can work hard. The secret is working hard on the right things." This systematic elimination approach transformed Curry's training in several key ways. Instead of practicing every type of shot, they focused intensely on specific high-percentage situations. Rather than running standard conditioning drills, they created custom exercises that mimicked Curry's exact movement patterns during games. They eliminated traditional weight training in favor of neuromuscular exercises that enhanced his specific shooting mechanics. The hardest part, Payne admits, wasn't figuring out what to do. It was having the courage to eliminate good exercises that weren't great for Steph's specific needs. This principle extends far beyond sports, as demonstrated by Hannah, a PhD candidate in molecular biology, who transformed her research process using what she calls the personal focus filter. When Hannah started her doctoral research, she followed the traditional approach, reading every paper in her field, attending every relevant seminar, and trying to incorporate every piece of feedback from her committee members. 6 months in, she was drowning in information, but making minimal progress on her actual research. "I was doing what every good PhD student was supposed to do," Hannah recalls, "but I was spreading myself too thin to make any meaningful breakthroughs." That's when she remembered the Netflix algorithm she'd studied in an undergraduate computer science class. Hannah developed her personal focus filter by asking 3 key questions about every research-related activity. Does this directly advance my core research question? Does this build on my unique strengths or perspectives? Could this lead to a breakthrough in my specific area? If an activity didn't score highly on at least 2 of these questions, it went into what she called her "not now" folder. The results were dramatic. She eliminated 70% of the papers on her reading list, focusing only on those directly relevant to her specific research angle. She stopped attending general departmental seminars, selecting only those precisely aligned with her research. She filtered committee feedback through the lens of her core research question, politely declining suggestions that would lead her down tangential paths. "The most surprising thing," Hannah shares, "was how my professors responded. I worried they'd think I was being lazy or narrow-minded. Instead, they respected my focused approach." One professor even said it showed intellectual maturity to know what not to pursue. Within 3 months of implementing her personal focus filter, Hannah made more progress on her research than she had in the previous 6 months combined. Her work became sharper, more focused, and ultimately more impactful. The personal focus filter works because it addresses a fundamental truth about human productivity. Our effectiveness isn't just about what we choose to do. It's equally about what we choose to eliminate. Just as Netflix's algorithm becomes more accurate by eliminating options, Our focus becomes sharper by consciously choosing what not to pursue. To help you develop your own focus filter, I've designed the Focus Filter Challenge, a 3-day exercise that will help you naturally develop your elimination skills without complex systems or rules. Here's how it works. Create a simple 2-column journal. In the left column, list everything you do during the day. Every task, activity, meeting, and commitment. Be ruthlessly honest. Include even small-time expenditures like checking social media or responding to non-urgent emails. In the right column, write what you would do differently if you could only accomplish 3 things that day. This isn't about what you should do. It's about what would create the most value if you had to eliminate everything else. The power of this exercise lies in its simplicity. By consistently comparing what you actually do with what you would do in a highly constrained scenario, patterns begin to emerge naturally. You'll start to see activities that consistently appear in your 3 things column. These are your high-leverage activities. Tasks that never make the cut, prime candidates for elimination. Patterns of time usage that don't align with your true priorities. Hidden opportunities for focused impact that current noise obscures. The goal isn't to actually reduce your day to just 3 activities. It's to develop the elimination mindset that characterizes high achievers in every field. Like Netflix's algorithm, you'll get better at predicting what truly matters and what can be eliminated. Chapter 12. Atomic Elimination. Kevin stared at his phone, scrolling through an endless feed of fitness influencers, workout plans, and diet tips. His own reflection in the dark screen showed the tired eyes of someone who had tried everything but achieved nothing. 10 different fitness apps cluttered his home screen, each promising the ultimate solution. 3 different fitness trackers wrapped around his wrist, all telling slightly different stories. The irony wasn't lost on him. In his quest for health, he'd created a maze of complexity that left him more exhausted than energized. One night, frustrated after another failed attempt to wake up for his ambitious 5 a.m. workout routine, Kevin made an unusual decision. Instead of downloading yet another habit tracking app or signing up for another workout program, he simply took his phone out of his bedroom. Just that one small change. No grand plans, no complex systems. Just one tiny elimination. The next morning, something unexpected happened. Without his phone's soft glow tempting him to check just one more thing before bed, he fell asleep earlier. Without the endless notifications serving as his alarm clock, he woke up naturally at 5:30 a.m., not his target 5 a.m., but significantly better than his usual rushed 7 a.m. scramble. This small victory sparked a revelation. Maybe the path to success wasn't about adding more, but about strategically eliminating less. This principle of atomic elimination, removing the smallest possible obstacles one at a time, finds its most powerful demonstration in the remarkable journey of Olympic champion Simone Biles. While most people focus on her gravity-defying skills, her longtime coach, Cecile Landy, reveals that their path to unprecedented success was paved with tiny eliminations. Everyone sees the big moments, Landy explains, but our real breakthroughs came from eliminating small inefficiencies one at a time. We didn't try to fix everything at once. We identified the smallest possible points of friction and eliminated them one by one. This methodical approach transformed Biles from an exceptionally talented gymnast into the most decorated gymnast in world championship history. They began with microscopic adjustments, eliminating a slight head tilt during takeoffs that cost fractions of a second, removing unnecessary arm movements that created minimal but measurable wind resistance, cutting out specific stretches that weren't directly contributing to performance. Greatness isn't about adding more tricks, Biles often shares. It's about eliminating small mistakes. Every tiny imperfection we removed unlocked a new level of performance. The power of atomic elimination extends far beyond sports, as demonstrated by Laura, a working mother who transformed her chaotic mornings into a masterclass in calm efficiency. Laura's story begins like many others, constantly rushing, always feeling behind, and perpetually stressed despite trying numerous morning routine hacks. Her transformation started when she stopped trying to add more productive habits and instead focused on eliminating one small source of friction each week for 8 weeks. For each elimination, keep a simple note of what you eliminated, the impact on your energy and focus, 1-5 scale, any unexpected benefits or challenges. The power of this challenge lies in its gentleness. Instead of trying to overhaul your entire life at once, you're making tiny, manageable eliminations that compound over time. Like removing grains of sand one at a time, eventually, you create enough space for something remarkable to emerge. Chapter 13. Time Blocking 2.0. Xavier sat at his desk, staring at his meticulously organized calendar with a mix of pride and puzzlement. As one of the top-performing real estate agents in his firm, he'd built his reputation on being always available, while maintaining strict time-blocking practices. Every hour was accounted for, color-coded, and optimized. Yet something wasn't adding up. Despite his rigorous scheduling system, he felt constantly behind, always racing to catch up with an endless stream of tasks that somehow slipped through the cracks of his perfectly planned days. Frustrated by this disconnect, Xavier decided to conduct a simple experiment. For 1 week, he would track not just his scheduled activities, but the actual results they produced. He created a simple 2-column journal. On the left, he logged his time blocks and activities. On the right, he noted which actions directly led to closed deals or meaningful progress with clients. The results stunned him. Despite blocking out 60 hours that week for productive work, only 12 of those hours, a mere 20%, contributed directly to closing deals or moving significant client relationships forward. The remaining 80% was consumed by what he called productive procrastination. Endless email chains, unnecessary meeting prep, and repetitive client updates that could have been eliminated or automated. But the most revealing insight came from an unexpected source. On Wednesday, a major power outage forced him to abandon his office and work from a local cafe with limited internet access. Unable to respond to non-urgent emails or attend his usual string of internal meetings, he found himself with large blocks of uninterrupted time. By the end of that disrupted day, he had made more meaningful progress on key deals than in the previous 3 days combined. This accidental experiment led to a profound realization. His calendar was missing a crucial element. He had diligently blocked time for action, but had never considered blocking time specifically for elimination. Dedicated periods for removing obstacles, clearing distractions, and deciding what not to do. This counterintuitive approach to time management finds its most powerful validation in Microsoft's groundbreaking No Meeting Wednesdays initiative, spearheaded by Chief Product Officer Panos Panay. What began as a simple experiment in the product development team evolved into a company-wide revolution in how they approach time management. Panay's team conducted a detailed study of productivity patterns across Microsoft's global workforce. The findings were clear and compelling. Teams that implemented meeting-free Wednesdays saw a 47% increase in deep work output. But the most interesting insight wasn't about what people did during these freed-up blocks. It was about what they eliminated. "We discovered something unexpected," Panay shared in a company-wide memo. "The most productive item on your calendar is the empty space. When we give people permission to eliminate first, rather than just add more efficient work, they naturally gravitate toward what matters most." The study revealed that employees weren't simply shifting meetings to other days. Instead, they used this structured empty space to question which meetings were truly necessary, leading to a natural elimination of about 30% of their regular meetings. This created a virtuous cycle. Fewer meetings led to better preparation for the remaining ones, which in turn led to shorter, more focused discussions. The success of this initiative challenges our fundamental assumptions about time management. Traditional time blocking focuses on optimizing how we use our time. But what if we've been approaching it backward? What if the key to unprecedented productivity isn't better scheduling of activities, but rather strategic scheduling of elimination? This brings us to the elimination time blocking method, a revolutionary approach that places elimination at the heart of time management. The method was powerfully demonstrated through the experience of Diana, a freelance writer who transformed her productivity by fundamentally rethinking how she structured her days. Diana had always prided herself on being organized. Her calendar was a masterpiece of time blocking, with dedicated slots for research, writing, editing, and client communication. Yet she found herself consistently missing deadlines and feeling overwhelmed. Her breakthrough came when she realized she needed to schedule elimination before action. She began by blocking 3 types of elimination time. First, she scheduled daily clearing blocks, 30-minute periods specifically for eliminating distractions, unsubscribing from newsletters, and removing unnecessary commitments from her calendar. Second, she established decision blocks, focused time for determining what projects to turn down, which client requests to decline, and what tasks to eliminate entirely. Third, she implemented inbox zero blocks, dedicated periods for processing emails and messages, with the specific goal of eliminating or delegating as much as possible. The results were transformative. Within 1 month, Diana had doubled her writing output while reducing her working hours by 25%. More importantly, she reported feeling in control for the first time in years. Before, I was trying to squeeze more and more into each day, Diana reflects. Now I start by creating space. It's like clearing the garden before planting new seeds. The irony is that by scheduling time to eliminate things, I actually get more done. Diana's experience highlights a crucial insight. Elimination isn't a passive activity that happens automatically. It requires dedicated time and attention, just like any other important task. When we don't schedule specific time for elimination, it tends to get pushed aside by more urgent but less important activities. Her new daily structure began with a 20-minute elimination block first thing in the morning. During this time, she would clear all notifications from the previous day, identify and eliminate at least one unnecessary commitment, process her inbox with a focus on what could be eliminated rather than what needed to be done. This morning elimination ritual set the tone for the rest of her day, creating space for focused work rather than reactive task switching. She also scheduled 2 additional 15-minute elimination blocks, one before lunch and one at day's end, to maintain this clarity throughout the day. The power of this approach lies in its proactive nature. Instead of waiting for overwhelm to force elimination, Diana made it a scheduled part of her day. This subtle shift from reactive to proactive elimination transformed not just her productivity, but also her relationship with time itself. To help you experience the power of elimination time blocking firsthand, I've designed the Reverse Calendar Challenge, a simple 3-day experiment that will revolutionize how you think about time management. Here's how it works. For the next 3 days, before scheduling any actual work or meetings, block out specific time for 3 types of elimination activities. Clearing time, 20 minutes at the start of each day. Process notifications and messages with a focus on elimination. Remove unnecessary items from your to-do list. Unsubscribe from at least one non-essential information source. Decision time, 15 minutes before lunch. Review upcoming commitments and identify what can be eliminated. Process new requests with a no-by-default mindset. Identify at least one task or project that can be simplified or removed. Reset time, 15 minutes at day's end. Clear your workspace and digital environment. Process any remaining messages with an elimination focus. Identify tomorrow's most important elimination priorities. The key is to schedule these elimination blocks before adding any other appointments or tasks to your calendar. This forces you to treat elimination as a priority rather than an afterthought. During the challenge, keep a simple note of how many items you eliminated each day, how this affected your energy and focus, any unexpected benefits or challenges you encountered. The goal isn't to eliminate everything, but rather to develop the habit of proactive elimination. By dedicating specific time to clearing space in your life, you create room for what truly matters to emerge naturally. Remember Xavier's story? After implementing elimination time blocking, he discovered that by spending just 1 hour per day on strategic elimination, he could create space for 3 to 4 hours of truly productive work. His closing rate increased by 60% within 2 months, not because he was working more, but because he had created the space to focus on what actually moved deals forward. The key principles of elimination time blocking are: schedule elimination before action. Treat clearing space as important as filling it. Make elimination a daily habit rather than a periodic purge. Focus on creating space rather than just managing time. This approach represents a fundamental shift in how we think about productivity. Instead of asking, "How can I fit more in?" we begin by asking, "What can I eliminate to create space for what matters most?" Chapter 14. The Digital Detox Protocol. Ron stared at his phone's screen time report with a mixture of disbelief and dawning horror. As the founder of a promising AI startup, he'd prided himself on using the latest productivity apps and digital tools to stay ahead of the curve. His home screen was a carefully curated collection of task management apps, time trackers, focus timers, and productivity analyzers. Each one promised to optimize his workflow and maximize his efficiency, but something wasn't adding up. Despite having every digital productivity tool at his disposal, he felt increasingly scattered and unproductive. His breaking point came during a crucial investor meeting when he found himself frantically switching between 3 different note-taking apps, unable to locate the key metrics he needed. That evening, he decided to conduct a simple experiment. He would track exactly how much time he spent managing his productivity systems. The results were staggering. Between syncing tasks across multiple apps, categorizing notifications, maintaining his digital calendar, and organizing his various productivity dashboards, Ron was spending nearly 3 hours each day just managing the tools that were supposed to make him more productive. The very systems he'd implemented to save time were now consuming it. "I've created a digital productivity prison," he realized, looking at his collection of perfectly organized but ultimately distracting apps. "I'm so busy optimizing my systems that I'm not actually getting anything done." This moment of clarity forced Ron to confront an uncomfortable truth. His relationship with technology had become fundamentally inverted. Instead of technology serving his goals, he was serving technology. Each new productivity app or digital tool he added created its own ecosystem of maintenance requirements, notifications, and cognitive overhead. He had fallen into what I call the digital enhancement trap, the mistaken belief that adding more digital tools automatically leads to better results. The paradox of digital productivity tools finds its most dramatic illustration in Academy Award winner Matthew McConaughey's radical experiment during his career transformation. In 2010, facing professional stagnation despite being constantly connected and available, McConaughey made an unprecedented decision. He would disconnect from all digital communication for 6 months, using only a landline phone and paper notebook. The entertainment industry thought he was committing career suicide. How could an actor survive without email, social media, or even texting? But McConaughey understood something fundamental about the relationship between digital noise and creative clarity. "Everyone told me I needed to be more connected, more visible, more accessible," McConaughey shared in a rare interview about this period. "But I realized that sometimes you need to disconnect from everything to reconnect with what matters. The constant digital chatter wasn't adding to my craft, it was diluting it." During his 6-month digital sabbatical, McConaughey read scripts without the distraction of constant updates, thought deeply about his career direction without the influence of industry chatter, and most importantly, reconnected with the fundamental aspects of his craft. This period of digital minimalism directly preceded his legendary Reconnaissance, a string of critically acclaimed performances that culminated in his Oscar win for Dallas Buyers Club. "The clarity I found in that silence was worth more than all the connectivity in the world," he reflected. "Sometimes you need to clear the digital noise to hear your own creative voice." McConaughey's experience highlights a crucial insight about digital tools. Their value isn't inherent in their features, but in how they serve our core purpose. This principle became the foundation of the Digital Noise Elimination Framework, a systematic approach to evaluating and eliminating digital distractions while preserving truly valuable digital tools. This framework found powerful validation through the experience of Michelle, a high school English teacher who transformed her classroom dynamics through an unexpected approach to technology. Like many educators, Michelle had initially embraced every new educational tech tool available: learning management systems, student engagement apps, digital feedback platforms, and countless others. Each promised to enhance learning and increase student engagement. Yet despite her classroom being more connected than ever, actual engagement was plummeting. Students were technically on task, but mentally scattered, constantly switching between multiple platforms and tools. The breaking point came during a poetry discussion when she realized her students were so busy logging their responses in the class engagement app that they weren't actually engaging with the poem or each other. Michelle decided to try a radical experiment. Instead of adding more digital tools to fight distraction, she would systematically eliminate digital noise from her classroom environment. She began by auditing every piece of technology used in her teaching process, asking 3 essential questions about each tool. First, does this technology serve the core purpose of learning, or does it just create the appearance of engagement? Second, does the cognitive overhead of managing this tool outweigh its benefits? And third, could this digital function be accomplished more effectively through analog means? The results of this audit were eye-opening. Michelle discovered that nearly 60% of the digital tools in her classroom were creating more problems than they solved. The student response system that was supposed to increase participation was actually preventing authentic discussion. The digital homework platform that promised to streamline assignments was causing anxiety and technical difficulties that detracted from actual learning. Over one semester, Michelle systematically eliminated these sources of digital noise. She replaced the student response app with simple hand-raising and direct discussion. She switched from digital homework submission to physical notebooks for first drafts of essays, reserving digital tools only for final submissions. She eliminated the classroom management app that sent constant notifications, instead creating dedicated check-in times for updates and questions. The transformation in her classroom was remarkable. Without the constant task switching between multiple platforms, students showed deeper engagement with the material. Class discussions became more dynamic and authentic. Most surprisingly, students reported feeling more connected to the class despite, or perhaps because of, the reduced digital interface. "I realized that digital tools are like seasoning in cooking," Michelle reflected. "Used sparingly and intentionally, they enhance the experience. But too much drowns out the main flavor, in this case, actual learning." Michelle's success inspired her to develop a simple but powerful framework for evaluating digital tools, which she called the 3 R's of digital elimination. Remove tools that create more overhead than value. Reduce features to only those that serve core purposes. Restrict usage to specific contexts where digital truly outperforms analog. And this framework helped her maintain the benefits of technology while eliminating its distracting aspects. Her students' test scores improved by 23% over the following year, but more importantly, their love of literature and learning deepened in ways no app could measure. The experiences of Ron, McConaughey, and Michelle highlight a crucial truth about our digital lives. The solution to digital overwhelm isn't better digital organization, it's strategic digital elimination. This insight leads us to the Digital Noise Elimination Framework, a systematic approach to evaluating and reducing digital distractions while preserving truly valuable digital tools. To help you begin this process of digital decluttering, I've designed the App Impact Journal exercise, a gentle but revealing 5-day experiment that will transform your relationship with digital tools. For the next 5 days, you'll maintain a simple journal tracking every digital tool and app you use. For each interaction, you'll rate the tool's impact on your productivity and well-being on a scale from 2 to +2. 2. Pure distraction or time waste. 1. More distracting than helpful. 0. Neutral impact. +1. Moderately valuable. +2. Genuinely essential. The key is to rate the tool's actual impact, not its intended or advertised benefit. A productivity app might promise +2 value, but actually deliver 1 if it requires constant maintenance or creates anxiety. Each evening, spend 5 minutes reviewing your ratings and reflecting on patterns. Notice which tools consistently rate negatively and which truly enhance your work and life. Pay special attention to apps that create productive procrastination, activities that feel productive but don't actually move you toward your goals. The purpose isn't to eliminate all digital tools, but to develop awareness of their true impact on your life and work. This gentle approach allows you to make informed decisions about your digital environment without requiring dramatic changes or complete disconnection. Through this process, you might discover, as Ron did, that some of your productivity tools are actually productivity barriers. Or like Michelle, you might find that fewer, more intentionally chosen digital tools lead to better results than a wide array of partially used apps. Remember, the goal isn't digital abstinence, but digital intentionality. By understanding the true impact of each digital tool in your life, you can create an environment where technology serves your purpose rather than distracting from it. Chapter 15. The Energy Audit. Liam Bennett had all the markers of success. As a top management consultant at a prestigious firm, he commanded impressive fees, worked with Fortune 500 clients, and maintained a rigorous schedule that impressed his colleagues. From the outside, he appeared to be thriving. But something wasn't right. Despite getting a solid 7 hours of sleep each night, maintaining a consistent exercise routine, and following all the standard wellness advice, he felt perpetually drained. The mystery deepened when his annual physical showed perfect health markers. His doctor suggested tracking his daily activities to identify potential stressors. Liam, being the methodical consultant he was, created an elaborate spreadsheet to monitor his time allocation. But after 2 weeks of meticulous tracking, the data revealed nothing unusual. His time management appeared optimal, a balanced mix of client work, exercise, family time, and rest. The breakthrough came during a chance conversation with his teenage daughter. "Dad," she observed, "you look so tired after your team meetings, but you're full of energy after working on those strategy documents alone." This simple observation sparked a revelation. Liam had been tracking the wrong metric entirely. The issue wasn't how he spent his time. It was how different activities affected his energy. The next day, Liam started a new experiment. Instead of tracking time, he began monitoring his energy levels before and after each activity. The results were shocking. Certain tasks that took minimal time, like his daily status update meetings or responding to internal emails, were creating massive energy deficits. Meanwhile, activities he'd been trying to minimize, like deep strategic work or mentoring junior colleagues, actually energized him, leaving him more vitalized than when he started. This energy-based perspective revealed a crucial insight. Time management alone is insufficient. You can optimize your schedule perfectly, but if you're filling it with activities that drain your vital energy, you're setting yourself up for exhaustion and diminished performance. This realization led Liam to a fundamental shift in how he approached his work and life. Instead of asking, "How can I fit more into each day?" he began asking, "How can I eliminate the activities that drain my energy while maximizing those that energize me?" The power of energy-based elimination finds its most compelling illustration in the remarkable career longevity of tennis legend Roger Federer. While many athletes' careers decline rapidly in their early 30s, Federer maintained peak performance well into his late 30s, competing at the highest levels of professional tennis long after most of his contemporaries had retired. The conventional wisdom suggested that maintaining performance at that age required more training, more conditioning, and more recovery work. But Federer and his longtime coach, Severin Luthi, took a radically different approach. Instead of adding more to his regime, they focused on strategic elimination of energy-draining activities. "Everyone thought we were crazy when we started reducing Roger's training hours," Luthi revealed in a rare interview. "The traditional approach is to train harder as you get older to compensate for declining physical capabilities. But we discovered something counterintuitive. The key to endurance isn't how much energy you expend, it's how much you conserve." This insight led to a complete reimagining of Federer's approach to tennis. They eliminated high-impact practice sessions that drained energy without proportional improvement. They cut certain tournament appearances that required energy-intensive travel and adjustment periods. They even modified his playing style to eliminate movements that created unnecessary energy expenditure. "Every activity has an energy cost," Federer explained. "The secret isn't just managing your energy. It's eliminating anything that doesn't give you a positive energy return on investment." This principle extended beyond just physical energy. Federer and his team also eliminated mentally and emotionally draining activities, from certain media obligations to particular types of social engagements. The results spoke for themselves. While his competitors struggled with burnout and injuries, Federer maintained remarkable consistency and resilience. His energy-based elimination strategy didn't just extend his career. It helped him continue playing at an elite level well past the age when most professional athletes have long retired. This principle of energy-based elimination isn't just for professional athletes. Its power is perfectly illustrated through the story of Carmen, an emergency room nurse at a busy urban hospital. Like many healthcare professionals, Carmen struggled with the intense demands of her role, often feeling completely depleted despite loving her work. Initially, Carmen tried all the standard advice: better time management, stress reduction techniques, even increasing her exercise routine, but nothing seemed to address her core issue of energy depletion. Then she discovered the personal energy matrix, a simple but powerful tool for identifying and eliminating energy drains while maximizing energy-generating activities. Carmen began by creating a simple grid. On one axis, she listed her major daily activities and interactions. On the other, she tracked her energy levels before and after each one. The patterns that emerged surprised her. Certain aspects of her job that seemed relatively easy, like filling out routine paperwork or attending staff meetings, were actually major energy drains. Meanwhile, high-intensity activities like handling trauma cases or mentoring new nurses often left her feeling more energized, despite being objectively more demanding. Armed with this insight, Carmen began systematically eliminating or modifying energy-draining activities. She batch-processed paperwork instead of letting it interrupt her patient care. She negotiated with her supervisor to reduce her involvement in certain administrative meetings that left her depleted. She even reorganized her break schedule to align with her natural energy rhythms, rather than just the conventional hospital routine. The transformation was remarkable. Within 2 months, Carmen found herself with more energy at the end of her shifts, despite handling the same patient load. Her performance metrics improved, and perhaps most importantly, she rediscovered the joy in her work that had been buried under layers of energy-draining activities. "I used to think being a good nurse meant doing everything," Carmen reflected. "Now I understand that eliminating energy drains actually makes me more present and effective with my patients. It's not about doing less, it's about having more energy for what truly matters." Carmen's success inspired her colleagues to adopt similar energy-based elimination strategies, leading to improved morale and performance across her unit. The hospital administration took notice. eventually implementing some of her energy management principles into their standard protocols. This brings us to the energy mapping exercise, a simple but powerful tool to help you identify and eliminate your own energy drains, while maximizing activities that energize you. For the next 4 days, you'll maintain a simple journal, tracking your energy levels before and after each significant activity or interaction. Rate your energy on a scale from 1, completely depleted, to 10, fully energized, before and after each activity. Don't just focus on work tasks. Include meetings, conversations, social interactions, and even leisure activities. The goal is to create a comprehensive map of how different activities affect your vital energy. Pay special attention to activities that create what I call hidden energy taxes. Things that seem easy or routine, but secretly drain your vitality. These might include certain types of meetings, specific relationships, or even supposedly relaxing activities that actually leave you feeling depleted. At the end of each day, spend 5 minutes reviewing your energy patterns. Look for activities that consistently drain your energy without providing proportional value, as well as those that energize you more than expected. This awareness is the first step towards strategic elimination of energy drains and optimization of energy-generating activities. Remember, the goal isn't to eliminate all challenging or demanding activities. Some high-energy tasks are essential and worthwhile. The key is identifying and eliminating those activities that drain your energy without providing sufficient return on that investment. This simple practice of energy mapping can reveal insights that transform how you approach your work and life. Just as Liam discovered with his consulting practice, Carmen with her nursing career, and Federer with his tennis longevity, understanding and managing your energy through strategic elimination can lead to breakthrough performance and sustainable success. The energy mapping exercise isn't just another tracking tool. It's your personal key to unlocking higher levels of performance and vitality through the power of strategic elimination. Your energy is your most precious resource. It's time to stop spending it on activities that don't serve your highest purpose. Chapter 16. The Productivity Paradox. Adrian Park had it all figured out, or so he thought. His startup's office was a testament to modern productivity culture. Kanban boards covered the walls, time-tracking software monitored every task, and his team religiously followed a complex system of sprints, stand-ups, and productivity rituals. His personal routine was even more elaborate. Each morning began with a carefully curated sequence of meditation, journaling, and priority-setting exercises. His smartphone contained no fewer than 12 productivity apps, each promising to optimize another slice of his workday. The young founder took pride in his systematic approach to efficiency. He could tell you exactly how many minutes he spent on each project, how many tasks he completed per hour, and his precise productivity score for any given day. His company, a promising AI software startup, was growing steadily, though not as rapidly as he'd hoped, despite all his optimization efforts. Then came the wake-up call that would transform his entire approach to work. At a tech conference in San Francisco, Adrian found himself seated next to James, the founder of his most successful competitor. Over dinner, Adrian couldn't help but ask about their productivity system. James's response left him stunned. "We don't have one," James said with a slight smile. "Actually, that's not entirely true. We have exactly one rule: ruthlessly eliminate everything that isn't absolutely essential. No productivity apps, no complex systems, no optimization tools. Just brutal focus on what truly matters and the courage to cut everything else." Adrian nearly choked on his wine. But how do you track everything? How do you measure productivity? How do you optimize your processes? James leaned forward, his expression serious. "That's exactly the point, Adrian. We spend zero time tracking productivity because we're too busy being productive. Every minute you spend measuring and optimizing productivity is a minute you're not actually producing anything." The conversation haunted Adrian for days. He began to notice how much time he and his team spent maintaining their productivity systems rather than doing actual work. The morning stand-up meetings often dragged on for 45 minutes. Team members spent hours updating their task tracking software. His own elaborate morning routine consumed nearly 2 hours before he even began meaningful work. In a moment of clarity, or perhaps desperation, Adrian decided to conduct an experiment. For 1 week, he would abandon all productivity systems and focus solely on elimination. No apps, no tracking, no optimization. Just ruthless prioritization and elimination of everything non-essential. The results were shocking. Without the overhead of maintaining complex productivity systems, his team's actual output increased by 40%. More surprisingly, stress levels dropped dramatically, and creative problem-solving improved. The endless debates about process improvements disappeared, replaced by focused discussions about their product and customers. This paradoxical relationship between productivity systems and actual productivity finds its perfect illustration in the writing process of literary legend Neil Gaiman. Despite immense pressure from publishers to increase his output, Gaiman made the counterintuitive decision to reduce his writing schedule to just 3 hours per day. "Everyone thought I was crazy," Gaiman shared in a rare interview about his process. "The conventional wisdom is that successful authors should write more, produce more, publish more. But I discovered something fascinating. When I limited my writing time, every minute became precious. There was no room for distraction or procrastination. Productivity isn't about doing more things. It's about doing fewer things better." This radical reduction in working hours led to some of Gaiman's most acclaimed works, including American Gods and The Ocean at the End of the Lane. By eliminating the pressure to be constantly productive, he actually became more productive. His 3 focused hours often yielded better results than others' 8 or 10-hour sessions. Gaiman's approach wasn't just about reducing time, it was about eliminating the very notion that more productivity tools and techniques lead to better output. He famously writes his first drafts by hand in notebooks, deliberately avoiding the countless writing software options available. Every tool you add becomes another thing to manage, another distraction from the actual work, he explains. True productivity comes from elimination, not addition. This principle extends far beyond writing. Consider the story of Sophia, a project manager at a major software company who transformed her team's performance through what she called productive elimination. When Sophia took over her struggling team, they were drowning in productivity tools and techniques. They used 3 different project management platforms, had daily status meetings for each project, and maintained elaborate documentation systems. Sophia's first action wasn't to add new tools or processes, it was to eliminate them. She started by auditing how much time her team spent maintaining their productivity systems versus doing actual work. The results were staggering. Team members were spending an average of 3 hours per day just managing their productivity tools and attending process-related meetings. Over the next month, Sophia systematically dismantled 60% of their productivity infrastructure. She consolidated 3 project management tools into one simple board. She eliminated all but 1 weekly status meeting per project. She simplified their documentation requirements to focus only on essential information. The transformation was remarkable. Within weeks, her team's actual output, measured in completed features and customer satisfaction, increased dramatically. But the most significant change was in the team's energy and creativity. Without the constant burden of maintaining productivity systems, they had space to think, innovate, and solve problems more effectively. The greatest productivity hack, Sophia observed, is eliminating the need for productivity hacks. Every system you add creates overhead. Every tool requires maintenance. Every process demands attention. Sometimes the most productive thing you can do is stop trying to be more productive. This insight led Sophia to develop what she called the Productivity Elimination Framework, a simple but powerful approach to achieving more by doing less. Instead of asking, "What can we add to be more productive?" she taught her team to ask, "What can we eliminate to focus on what truly matters?" The framework had 3 simple questions. Does this tool, process, meeting directly contribute to our core deliverables? Could we achieve the same result without it? Is the time spent maintaining this system worth the benefits it provides? Any tool or process that couldn't satisfactorily answer these questions was eliminated. The result was a leaner, more focused team that consistently outperformed their more optimized counterparts. To help you experience the liberating power of productive elimination, I invite you to participate in the Anti-Productivity Journal exercise. For the next 5 days, you'll systematically identify and eliminate one productivity tool, habit, or system each day. This isn't about becoming less productive. It's about discovering how much more you can achieve when you stop obsessing over productivity itself. Each day, choose one productivity-related element to eliminate. This could be a time-tracking app, a type of meeting, a morning routine component, or any other tool or habit you've adopted in the name of productivity. Document 3 things in your journal: what you eliminated, how it feels to work without it, and what you notice about your actual output and stress levels. The goal isn't to eliminate everything. Some productivity tools and systems are genuinely useful. The goal is to discover which ones are actually serving you and which are creating more overhead than value. Like Adrian with his startup, Neil Gaiman with his writing, and Sophia with her project team, you might find that your most significant productivity breakthrough comes not from adding more systems, but from having the courage to eliminate them. Remember, true productivity isn't about doing more things, it's about doing the right things better. Sometimes the most productive thing you can do is stop trying so hard to be productive. This exercise isn't just about reducing productivity overhead. It's about reclaiming your focus, energy, and creativity from the very systems that were supposed to enhance them. Your greatest productivity breakthroughs might be waiting on the other side of elimination. Chapter 17. The Implementation Formula. Jordan stood in front of his bathroom mirror, staring at the unused gym membership card that had been mocking him for the past 6 months. This was his 4th attempt at establishing a consistent training routine this year. And like the previous attempts, he could already feel his motivation wavering. As a former college athlete turned marketing executive, he knew the importance of staying fit, but despite his determination and well-crafted plans, something always seemed to get in the way. His latest training program was meticulously designed. He'd invested in the best workout gear, downloaded top-rated fitness apps, and even hired a personal trainer. Yet 3 weeks in, he found himself making excuses and missing sessions. The frustration was palpable. Why couldn't he stick to something he genuinely wanted to do? The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. While cleaning out his garage one weekend, Jordan discovered his old training log from college. Flipping through the yellowed pages, he noticed something fascinating. Back then, he hadn't focused on creating elaborate workout plans or setting ambitious goals. Instead, his notes were filled with simple observations about what got in the way of his training and how he eliminated those obstacles. There were practical notes like moved workout clothes to car trunk, no more forgetting gear, and blocked social media apps during training hours. Each entry focused not on what he needed to do, but on what he needed to remove to make training inevitable. This discovery led Jordan to a radical shift in approach. Instead of adding more structure, motivation techniques, or accountability measures, he began systematically eliminating obstacles. He started small, moving his alarm clock across the room so he couldn't hit snooze, then progressed to bigger changes like rearranging his entire morning schedule to eliminate time-consuming decisions. Within weeks, his implementation rate skyrocketed. Not because he had more willpower or a better plan, but because he had fewer obstacles between intention and action. The path to his goals became so clear and obstacle-free that following through required minimal effort. This counterintuitive approach to implementation finds its perfect illustration in Jerry Seinfeld's famous "Don't Break the Chain" method, though with a crucial twist that few people understand. While most focus on Seinfeld's habit of marking an X on the calendar for each day he wrote jokes, the real insight lies in how he maintained such an impressive streak. "Everyone talks about the chain," Seinfeld shared in a rare interview about his creative process, "but they miss the point entirely. The secret isn't doing something every day. It's removing everything that stops you from doing it. I spent more time eliminating potential interruptions than actually writing jokes." This revelation sheds new light on one of comedy's most successful implementation strategies. Seinfeld didn't just commit to writing daily. He systematically eliminated every possible obstacle to writing. He removed the television from his writing room, disconnected the phone during writing hours, and even arranged his furniture to eliminate distracting views from his desk. "Most people try to force themselves to be productive," he explained. "I made it impossible to be unproductive. There's a big difference." This subtle shift in focus, from forcing action to eliminating resistance, became the foundation of his legendary productivity. The science behind this approach is compelling. Research in behavioral psychology shows that willpower is far less effective at driving consistent action than environmental design. In other words, eliminating obstacles is more powerful than strengthening resolve. Let's listen to the story of Rory, a graduate student who had been struggling with her thesis for nearly 2 years. Like many in her position, she had tried every productivity technique imaginable: time blocking, the Pomodoro technique, accountability partners, and countless writing apps. Yet progress remained frustratingly slow. Her transformation began when she shifted her focus from implementation to elimination. Instead of trying to force herself to write more, she started identifying and eliminating everything that prevented her from writing. The process began with a simple audit of her typical writing session. Rory discovered that before she could even begin writing, she faced a gauntlet of small obstacles. Deciding where to work, setting up her workspace, gathering her materials, checking emails just in case, and dealing with various notifications. Each tiny obstacle created friction that drained her limited willpower and delayed the actual work. Over the next month, she systematically eliminated these friction points. She designated one specific coffee shop as her writing spot, eliminating the daily decision of where to work. She created a thesis bag that always contained everything she needed, eliminating the gathering phase. She installed website blockers and turned off notifications during writing hours, eliminating digital distractions before they could occur. The results were remarkable. Without changing her goals, schedule, or writing techniques, Rory's daily word count tripled. More importantly, the process of writing became significantly easier. "It's not that I became a better writer," she reflected. "I just removed everything that was stopping me from writing." This insight led Rory to develop what she called the obstacle-first approach to implementation. Before starting any new project or habit, she would spend time identifying and eliminating potential obstacles rather than focusing solely on action steps. This preemptive elimination strategy proved so effective that she completed her thesis 3 months ahead of schedule. The power of this approach lies in its focus on prevention rather than cure. Instead of developing strategies to overcome obstacles as they arise, the goal is to eliminate them before they can impact your implementation. This subtle shift makes success almost inevitable. To help you apply this principle in your own life, I've developed the Implementation Roadblock Diary exercise. For the next 4 days, you'll track every obstacle that prevents you from implementing your most important goal. The key is to be specific and honest about what really gets in your way. Each evening, spend 10 minutes reflecting on the day's obstacles. Write down everything that prevented or delayed your progress, no matter how small it seems. Then categorize each obstacle into one of 3 groups. Remove. These are obstacles you can eliminate entirely, like social media notifications during focus time. Reduce. These are obstacles you can't eliminate but can minimize, like necessary meetings that can be shortened. Reroute. These are obstacles you must work around rather than eliminate, like family commitments that require schedule adjustments. The power of this exercise lies not just in identifying obstacles, but in developing a strategic approach to eliminating them. By categorizing obstacles, you create a clear action plan for clearing your path to success. Remember, the goal isn't to become better at overcoming obstacles, it's to have fewer obstacles to overcome in the first place. Like Jordan with his fitness routine, Jerry Seinfeld with his writing practice, and Rory with her thesis, your greatest implementation breakthroughs might come not from pushing harder, but from eliminating what's pushing back. As you work through the implementation roadblock diary, you'll likely discover that many of your implementation challenges stem not from a lack of motivation or discipline, but from the presence of unnecessary obstacles. By systematically eliminating these roadblocks, you create an environment where success becomes the path of least resistance. This approach represents a fundamental shift in how we think about implementation. Instead of asking, "How can I force myself to do this?" ask, "What's stopping me from doing this, and how can I eliminate it?" This simple reframe often reveals solutions that were hiding in plain sight. Chapter 18: Overcoming Resistance. Benjamin stared at the cluttered desk in his corner office, his hand hovering over a stack of reports he hadn't touched in months. As a senior project manager at a Fortune 500 company, he prided himself on efficiency and productivity. He'd read all the books about minimalism and strategic elimination, attended the seminars, and even hired a productivity coach. Yet somehow, despite knowing exactly what he needed to eliminate from his work life, he couldn't bring himself to actually let anything go. The reports represented just one small piece of his struggle. His calendar was packed with important meetings he knew were wasteful. His phone buzzed with notifications from apps he never used, and his to-do list contained projects he'd been meaning to abandon for years. Every time he resolved to eliminate something, a wave of anxiety would wash over him. What if he needed those reports later? What if declining those meetings hurt his career? What if letting go of those projects was a mistake? It wasn't until a chance conversation with his teenage daughter that Benjamin finally understood what was happening. She was practicing piano, repeatedly hitting a wrong note in a difficult passage. Her instructor had told her to unlearn her mistake, but she kept making it. "I know exactly what I'm doing wrong," she said, frustrated. "But knowing doesn't make it any easier to stop." In that moment, Benjamin realized he'd been approaching elimination all wrong. He had been so focused on identifying what to eliminate that he never addressed why he was resistant to letting things go in the first place. This insight marked the beginning of his true transformation. Instead of forcing himself to eliminate things, Benjamin began exploring his resistance to elimination. He started keeping a simple journal, noting not just what he needed to eliminate, but how the very thought of elimination made him feel. The patterns that emerged surprised him. His resistance wasn't really about the things themselves. It was about deeper fears and attachments he'd never acknowledged. Those unread reports, they represented his fear of being unprepared. The unnecessary meetings, his worry about becoming irrelevant. The unused apps, his anxiety about missing out on the next big thing. Once he understood these underlying patterns, the act of elimination became less threatening. He wasn't just letting go of things. He was addressing the fears that made him hold on in the first place. This profound shift in approach finds its perfect illustration in Lady Gaga's remarkable vocal transformation during the early years of her career. While most people focus on the techniques she learned, her vocal coach Dawn Lawrence reveals that the real breakthrough came from addressing her resistance to letting go of old habits. Everyone wanted to teach Stefani, Lady Gaga, new techniques, Lawrence shared in a rare interview about their work together. But her voice was already extraordinary. The real challenge wasn't adding new skills. It was helping her let go of the protective habits she'd developed over years of singing incorrectly. These protective habits, tension in her throat, restricted breathing patterns, unconscious vocal grips, were her body's response to fear and uncertainty. Simply knowing they were harmful wasn't enough to eliminate them. The breakthrough came when they began addressing the emotional resistance behind these physical patterns. The hardest part wasn't learning new things, Gaga later reflected. It was unlearning what was holding me back. I had to face why I was holding on to habits that were hurting my voice. It wasn't about technique, it was about trust. This insight transformed their approach. Instead of focusing solely on vocal exercises, Lawrence helped Gaga explore and address her resistance to letting go. They discovered that many of her harmful vocal habits were rooted in early experiences of criticism and self-doubt. Only by acknowledging and working through this emotional resistance could she truly free her voice. The science behind this approach is compelling. Research in neuroscience shows that our brains are wired to resist elimination, even when we consciously know something isn't serving us. This resistance isn't just psychological, it's physiological. The mere thought of letting go can trigger our threat response system, making elimination feel physically uncomfortable. Let's look at the story of Amara, a small business owner who struggled to streamline her company despite clear evidence that certain products and services were draining resources. Like many entrepreneurs, she knew exactly what needed to be eliminated: unprofitable product lines, time-consuming clients, inefficient processes. Yet every attempt at elimination met with fierce resistance, not just from her team, but from something deeper within herself. Amara's breakthrough came when she shifted her focus from what to eliminate to why elimination felt so threatening. She began by creating a safe space for her team to explore their resistance to change. Instead of pushing for immediate elimination, she initiated what she called resistance conversations. These conversations revealed that each team member's resistance was rooted in different fears. Her sales manager was holding on to unprofitable products because they represented his first successful launches. Her operations director was clinging to inefficient processes because she feared automation would make her role obsolete. Even Amara discovered that her own resistance to eliminating certain clients was tied to her early struggles to build the business. Understanding these emotional underpinnings changed everything. Instead of pushing harder against resistance, Amara began working with it. She developed the Resistance Release Protocol, a simple but powerful approach to elimination that addressed the emotional aspects of letting go before tackling the practical ones. The protocol started with acknowledgement. Before any elimination could take place, team members were encouraged to fully express their concerns and fears about letting go. These weren't just venting sessions. They were structured conversations designed to uncover the root causes of resistance. Next came exploration. Each person was asked to imagine the worst possible outcome of elimination, then work backward to identify what resources, support, or assurances would help make letting go feel safer. This step often revealed that people weren't actually resistant to elimination itself, but to what they imagined elimination might lead to. Finally, there was integration. Instead of forcing immediate change, the team created small, safe experiments with elimination. They would temporarily suspend a process or service, carefully monitoring both the practical and emotional impacts. This gradual approach allowed people to experience the benefits of elimination while building confidence in their ability to adapt. The results were transformative. Within 6 months, Amara's company had successfully eliminated 3 unprofitable product lines, restructured their client base, and streamlined numerous internal processes. More importantly, these changes happened with enthusiasm rather than resistance, because people felt heard and supported through the process. The biggest lesson, Amara reflected, was realizing that resistance to elimination isn't an obstacle to overcome. It's information to understand. When we stopped fighting our resistance and started listening to it, everything changed. To help you apply these insights in your own life, I've developed the Resistance Recognition Log, a gentle but powerful tool for understanding your own patterns of resistance to elimination. For the next 3 days, you'll explore your emotional responses to the idea of elimination in different areas of your life. Each evening, take 15 minutes to reflect on one area. Day 1 focuses on work, Day 2 on relationships, and Day 3 on personal habits. For each area, consider what you know you should eliminate, then write about how the thought of letting go makes you feel. Be specific about your emotions and try to trace them back to their source. Don't force yourself to eliminate anything during this exercise. The goal is simply to build awareness of your resistance patterns. You might discover, like Benjamin, that your resistance to clearing your desk is really about fear of being unprepared. Or like Amara's team, you might find that your reluctance to streamline processes is connected to deeper concerns about your value and role. Remember, resistance to elimination is natural and even useful. It often protects things we genuinely value. The key is learning to distinguish between resistance that's serving us and resistance that's holding us back. This awareness is the first step toward meaningful and lasting elimination. As you work through the resistance recognition log, you'll likely discover patterns in your resistance that you never noticed before. These patterns aren't problems to solve. They're clues that can guide you toward more effective and sustainable elimination strategies. This approach represents a fundamental shift in how we think about elimination. Instead of asking, "What should I eliminate?" start by asking, "What makes letting go feel so hard?" This simple reframe often reveals insights that make the actual process of elimination not just easier, but genuinely liberating. Chapter 19. The Art of Strategic Saying No. Isabella sat at her desk late one Friday evening, staring at her calendar in disbelief. As the newly promoted VP of marketing at a fast-growing tech company, she'd always prided herself on being a team player, someone who could be counted on to step up and help. But the numbers on her screen told a disturbing story. In just 1 week, she had said yes to 43 hours of new commitments, 11 meetings, 3 quick coffee chats, 4 small favor requests, and 6 exciting new projects. All this on top of her existing 60-hour work week. The reality of these numbers hit her like a physical blow. Even if she worked 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, she still couldn't fulfill all her commitments. More troubling was the realization that many of these yeses had nothing to do with her core responsibilities or career goals. They were reflexive responses, born from a desire to be helpful and a fear of missing out. Her breaking point came during a video call with her mentor, who noticed the dark circles under her eyes and her frazzled demeanor. "When was the last time you said no to something?" her mentor asked. Isabella started to defend herself but stopped short. She couldn't remember. This simple question sparked a deeper exploration that would transform not just her approach to work, but her entire relationship with the word no. Isabella began tracking not just her commitments, but the requests themselves. She noted who was asking, what they wanted, how the request made her feel, and most importantly, why she felt compelled to say yes. The patterns that emerged were enlightening. Many of her yeses were driven by guilt, fear of disappointment, or an unrealistic belief that she could somehow make it all work. What started as a simple tracking exercise evolved into a profound journey of self-discovery. Isabella realized that saying no wasn't about being difficult or unhelpful. It was about being strategic with her most precious resources, her time and energy. This shift in perspective changed everything. This transformation mirrors the remarkable journey of Oprah Winfrey early in her career, during what she later called her no project. While most people know Oprah as the media mogul who could make careers with a single yes, few realize that her path to extraordinary success was paved with strategic no's. In 1994, at the height of the Oprah Winfrey Show's popularity, Oprah made a decision that seemed counterintuitive to everyone around her. For 6 months, she would say no to every request that didn't directly align with her core mission and values. No charity appearances that didn't speak to her heart. no business opportunities that didn't align with her vision, no social engagements that didn't nurture her spirit. Everyone thought I was crazy, Oprah later revealed in a candid interview. Here I was, at what many considered the peak of my career, deliberately turning down opportunities that other people would kill for. But I had this deep knowing that saying yes to everything was actually saying no to what mattered most. The results of this experiment were stunning. Not only did it lead to her most successful year in terms of ratings and revenue, but it also sparked a creative renaissance that would define the next phase of her career. The time and energy she reclaimed through strategic no's allowed her to develop new show formats, deepen her connection with her audience, and lay the groundwork for what would become her media empire. Every time you say yes to something you don't truly want, Oprah observed, you're actually saying no to what you do want. It took me years to understand that saying no isn't about closing doors. It's about making space for the right doors to open. This insight fundamentally changed how Oprah approached decision-making. She developed what she called her alignment test, a simple but powerful way to evaluate requests against her core mission. Instead of asking whether she could do something, she began asking whether she should do it. This subtle shift transformed saying no from an act of rejection to an act of protection, protecting her time, energy, and purpose. The science behind strategic saying no is compelling. Research in decision-making psychology shows that every yes carries what researchers call an opportunity cost, the hidden price of what we give up by saying yes. This cost isn't just about time, it's about energy, focus, and the ability to pursue what truly matters. Let me tell you the story of Marcus, a freelance photographer who was struggling to build his business despite working 7 days a week. Like many creative professionals, Marcus said yes to every opportunity that came his way, believing that more exposure would lead to more success. He shot weddings, products, real estate, events, anything that would pay the bills. While this approach kept him busy, it wasn't leading to the career he dreamed of. His portfolio was scattered, his rates were low, and he was too exhausted to pursue the high-end fashion photography he really wanted to do. His breakthrough came when he started applying what he called the power of no framework. Marcus began by getting crystal clear about his ideal direction, high-end fashion and editorial photography. Then, he did something that terrified him. He started saying no to everything else. No more weddings, even when clients offered to pay his full rate. No more product shoots, even for big brands. No more real estate photography, even though it provided steady income. The first month was terrifying, Marcus admitted. I turned down over $8,000 worth of work. My friends thought I was having a breakdown, but I knew that every hour spent shooting something that wouldn't advance my real goals was an hour stolen from my future. Instead of filling his calendar with whatever came along, Marcus used his newly freed time to build a fashion portfolio, reach out to magazine editors, and study the work of photographers he admired. He started attending industry events he previously had been too busy for, and invested in improving his specific skills needed for fashion photography. The transformation wasn't immediate, but it was profound. Within 3 months, he landed his first editorial spread in a regional fashion magazine. Within 6 months, he had worked with 2 national brands. By the end of the year, his income had tripled, and more importantly, he was doing the work he loved. The irony, Marcus reflected, is that saying no actually made me more valuable to the right clients. When you're willing to say no to good opportunities, you become magnetic to great ones. Marcus's experience highlights a crucial truth about strategic saying no. It's not about saying no to everything. It's about saying no to the right things. He developed a simple but effective framework for evaluating opportunities. First, he assessed alignment. Does this opportunity move me closer to my goals or further away? Then, he considered the hidden costs. What would I have to say no to if I say yes to this? Finally, he He evaluated the long-term impact. Will this decision open or close doors to the kind of work I really want to do? This framework transformed saying no from an emotional reaction into a strategic decision. It wasn't about being difficult or exclusive. It was about being intentional and focused. To help you develop your own strategic approach to saying no, I've created the No Practice Journal, a simple but powerful tool for understanding and improving your decision-making patterns. For the next 5 days, you'll document every significant request you receive, your response, and the reasoning behind your choice. Each evening, take a few minutes to reflect on the day's requests. Note who asked, what they wanted, how you responded, and most importantly, why you made that choice. Be honest about your motivations. Are you saying yes out of obligation, fear, or genuine alignment with your goals? Don't force yourself to say no during this exercise. The goal is simply to become aware of your current patterns and the underlying reasons for your choices. You might discover, like Isabella, that many of your yeses are driven by guilt or fear. Or like Marcus, you might realize that your willingness to say yes to everything is actually holding you back from what you really want to achieve. Remember, strategic saying no isn't about becoming negative or unhelpful. It's about becoming intentional and focused. It's about recognizing that your time and energy are finite resources that deserve to be invested wisely. Chapter 20. The Reverse Gap Technique. Akiko sat alone in her practice room at the prestigious Tokyo Conservatory of Music, surrounded by sheet music, technique books, and a growing sense of despair. Despite practicing 6 hours daily, meticulously adding new exercises, and constantly pushing herself to master more complex pieces, she felt stuck. Her fingers moved across the piano keys with technical precision, but something was missing. The music felt mechanical, forced, a far cry from the emotional depth she yearned to convey. For the past year, she had followed the conventional wisdom. More practice, more techniques, more complexity. Her schedule was a carefully orchestrated symphony of additional commitments. Morning finger exercises, afternoon theory studies, evening performance practice, and late-night technique drills. She had even added weekend masterclasses and online tutorials, believing that more input would eventually lead to breakthrough. But tonight, after a particularly frustrating practice session where she struggled with a Chopin nocturne she'd played perfectly just days before, something broke. Tears of frustration rolled down her cheeks as she stared at the growing pile of unfinished pieces on her music stand. Each represented another skill she was trying to add, another technique she was attempting to master. It was in this moment of vulnerability that her mentor, Master Tanaka, happened to walk by. He stood silently in the doorway, observing her distress with the wisdom of someone who had witnessed this scene many times before. After a few moments, he asked a question that would change everything. Instead of focusing on what you need to add, what if you focused on what's holding you back? The simplicity of the question caught Akiko off guard. She had been so consumed with addition, adding skills, adding practice time, adding complexity, that she had never considered the power of subtraction. Master Tanaka sat down beside her and shared a perspective that would transform not just her music, but her entire approach to growth. In traditional Japanese arts, he explained, mastery often comes not from adding more, but from eliminating what is unnecessary. Think of sculpture. The artist doesn't add clay to reveal the figure within the stone. They chip away what doesn't belong. This conversation marked the beginning of Akiko's journey into what I call the reverse gap technique, a revolutionary approach to progress that focuses not on what we need to add, but on what we need to eliminate to reveal our true potential. This counterintuitive approach to mastery isn't just theory. It's been proven at the highest levels of human achievement. We all know the remarkable story of NBA legend Kobe Bryant, whose unique practice methodology challenged conventional wisdom about skill development in professional sports. While other players focused on adding new moves to their repertoire, Bryant took a radically different approach. Working with his trainer, Tim Grover, he developed what they called the elimination method. Instead of constantly expanding his arsenal of skills, Bryant obsessively analyzed his game footage to identify and eliminate microscopic inefficiencies in his existing moves. "Everyone wants to add new moves," Bryant once explained in a rare training interview. "They want the flashy crossover, the fancy footwork. But few have the courage to eliminate what's holding them back. It's not about adding more, it's about becoming pure in what you already have." This philosophy led to some of the most unusual practice sessions in NBA history. While other players might spend hours practicing new shots or developing additional skills, Bryant would sometimes spend an entire session working on eliminating a single unnecessary movement from his jump shot. A slight hitch in his elbow, a microscopic pause in his follow-through. "People thought I was crazy," Bryant recalled. "They'd see me in the gym for hours, seemingly doing the same simple shot over and over. But I wasn't adding anything. I was eliminating everything that didn't serve the perfect shot. That's much harder and much more valuable than learning a new move." The results spoke for themselves. Bryant's shooting percentage improved dramatically, not because he added new skills, but because he eliminated inefficiencies from his existing technique. His movements became more economical, more precise, and ultimately more effective. "Every unnecessary movement is an opportunity for error," he would often say. "Eliminate the unnecessary, and excellence becomes inevitable." This principle extends far beyond sports, as demonstrated by the remarkable transformation of Claire's struggling tech startup. When I first met Claire, her company was on the verge of collapse, despite, or perhaps because of, her relentless efforts to add new features, expand into new markets, and implement new processes. Claire's story is particularly instructive because it shows how the reverse gap technique can transform not just individual performance, but entire organizations. Her company, a promising educational technology platform, had started strong, but was now drowning in complexity. They had added so many features, targeting so many different user segments, that their once elegant solution had become a bloated, confusing mess. "We thought the answer was always more," Claire admitted. "More features, more marketing channels, more customer segments. Every time we faced a challenge, we added something new to address it. We were trapped in what I now call the addition spiral." The breaking point came during a crucial investor meeting. After presenting their impressive list of new initiatives and planned features, a veteran investor asked a simple question that echoed Master Tanaka's wisdom. "What if your problem isn't what you're missing, but what you've unnecessarily added?" This question led Claire to develop what she called the reverse gap protocol, a systematic approach to identifying and eliminating organizational obstacles rather than adding new solutions. The first step was radical. She declared a 30-day addition freeze. No new features, no new initiatives, no new anything. Instead, the entire team focused on identifying what they could eliminate. The results were stunning. They eliminated 60% of their features, discovering that most were rarely used and actually confused customers. They cut their target market segments from 12 to 3, allowing for more focused and effective marketing. They simplified their pricing structure from 5 tiers to 2, reducing sales friction and actually increasing conversions. The hardest part, Claire reflected, was overcoming our addiction to addition. We had to learn that progress often comes from elimination, not accumulation. Every time we eliminated something unnecessary, we created space for our core value to shine through. Within 6 months, Claire's company had achieved profitability for the first time. User satisfaction scores doubled. The platform, now streamlined and focused, began growing organically through word of mouth. Most surprisingly, their development team, freed from maintaining unnecessary features, began innovating more effectively within their narrower but clearer scope. The power of the reverse gap technique lies in its ability to shift our perspective on progress. Instead of always looking forward at what we need to add, It encourages us to look around at what we can eliminate. This shift often reveals that our biggest obstacles aren't what we're missing, but what we've unnecessarily accumulated. To help you experience this powerful shift in perspective, I've developed the Reverse Progress Map, a simple but transformative 3-day exercise that will help you identify the hidden power of elimination in your own success story. Here's how it works. For the next 3 days, set aside 15 minutes each evening. On the first day, list 3 recent achievements you're proud of, any successes, big or small. On the second day, for each achievement, work backward to identify what you eliminated, rather than what you added, to make that success possible. Did you eliminate distractions, unnecessary steps, self-limiting beliefs? On the final day, reflect on these eliminations and identify patterns. What types of eliminations seem to have the biggest impact on your success? The goal isn't to create an exhaustive list or force insights. Simply allow yourself to explore this new perspective on progress. You might be surprised to discover, like Akiko, that your biggest breakthroughs came not from adding more, but from eliminating what was holding you back. Remember, the reverse gap technique isn't about becoming a minimalist or rejecting growth. It's about recognizing that true progress often requires the courage to eliminate what doesn't serve our highest potential. As Kobe Bryant demonstrated, mastery isn't always about adding new moves. Sometimes it's about perfecting what we already have by eliminating the unnecessary. Chapter 21. The Momentum Method. Derek Mitchell stood in his office, staring at the wall of success stories, photographs of clients who had achieved their weight loss goals. As a veteran fitness coach with 15 years of experience, he had helped hundreds of people transform their bodies and lives. But something had been nagging at him lately, a pattern he couldn't ignore any longer. That morning, while reviewing his client data from the past 5 years, he noticed something startling. His most successful clients weren't the ones who followed the most rigorous exercise routines or the strictest diet plans. They weren't the ones who added more workouts, bought more equipment, or tried more supplements. Instead, the clients who achieved the most dramatic and sustainable results shared one unexpected characteristic. They focused on eliminating one small obstacle each week. Take his client, Michael, for example. Unlike most newcomers who immediately wanted to add intense workouts and complex meal plans, Michael took a different approach. In his first week, he simply eliminated sugary drinks from his office desk drawer. The following week, he removed the shortcut that led him past his favorite fast food restaurant during his commute. Week 3, he eliminated the habit of watching TV while eating, which had been leading to mindless snacking. Each elimination was small, almost trivial in isolation. But as Derek reviewed Michael's journey, he saw how these small eliminations created a snowball effect. Without the sugary drinks in sight, Michael naturally drank more water. The new route to work not only avoided fast food temptation, but added a pleasant 5-minute walk. Eating without TV distraction led to better portion control without any conscious effort. "It's like clearing rocks from a stream," Derek muttered to himself, reaching for his notebook. "The water naturally flows faster, not because you added more water, but because you removed the obstacles in its path." This revelation would transform his entire approach to coaching and lead to the development of what I now call the momentum method. This principle of elimination-driven momentum isn't just effective in fitness. It's been proven at the highest levels of innovation and entrepreneurship. See the revolutionary approach of Tesla CEO Elon Musk, whose first principles thinking has transformed multiple industries. While most business leaders focus on adding new solutions to existing problems, Musk's method begins by eliminating assumed limitations and constraints. During the early days of SpaceX, when faced with the astronomical cost of rocket components, Musk didn't immediately try to add more efficient processes or negotiate better supplier deals. Instead, he started by eliminating the assumption that rockets needed to be purchased from traditional aerospace suppliers at all. The best way to solve problems is to make sure you're not accidentally creating them, Musk explained in a revealing interview about his problem-solving approach. When we eliminated the assumption that rockets had to be built the traditional way, we discovered we could manufacture them for about 2% of the prevailing market price. This elimination-first approach created unprecedented momentum in the space industry. By removing one assumed limitation after another, SpaceX achieved what many thought impossible, dramatically reducing the cost of space launches while increasing their frequency and reliability. But perhaps more revealing is how Musk applies this principle to his personal productivity. In a less publicized aspect of his work habits, he begins each quarter by identifying and eliminating what he calls momentum killers, activities, meetings, or processes that create unnecessary friction in his workflow. People think momentum comes from adding more force, he noted, but often it comes from eliminating resistance. Once you remove the obstacles, progress becomes almost effortless. This insight perfectly captures the essence of the momentum method, the idea that elimination, not addition, is the key to unstoppable progress. This principle proved transformative for Leah, a high school English teacher in inner-city Chicago who was struggling with student engagement. Like many educators, Leah had tried adding more elements to her teaching approach. More interactive activities, more technology, more reward systems. But despite her best efforts, student participation remained low, and enthusiasm seemed to be declining. Everything changed when Leah discovered the momentum method through a professional development workshop. Instead of adding more techniques to her teaching arsenal, she decided to try a different approach, identifying and eliminating one barrier to participation each week. In the first week, she eliminated the traditional hand-raising requirement, introducing a simple card system where students could signal their thoughts without the social pressure of raising their hands. The following week, she removed the standard classroom seating arrangement, creating flexible discussion pods that eliminated the front-of-class barrier. Week 3, she eliminated the practice of calling out grades in class, replacing it with a private feedback system. Each elimination was relatively small, but the cumulative effect was remarkable. Without the pressure of public hand-raising, quieter students began contributing more frequently. The new seating arrangement naturally fostered more peer-to-peer discussion. The private feedback system eliminated the fear of public embarrassment that had been holding many students back. It was like watching a dam break in slow motion, Leah recalled. Each small elimination created a tiny crack in the wall of resistance. Then suddenly, the whole thing gave way, and engagement started flowing naturally. By the end of the semester, classroom participation had increased by 300%, and test scores showed significant improvement. But what truly amazed Leah was how this momentum carried over into other areas. Students began voluntarily forming study groups, starting their own literature circles, and even requesting additional reading assignments. The momentum she had created through strategic elimination had taken on a life of its own. I realized that engagement wasn't something I needed to force or manufacture, Leah explained. It was already there, naturally present in my students. I just needed to eliminate the obstacles that were blocking it. This insight captures a crucial aspect of the momentum method, the understanding that often our desired outcome is already present, just waiting to be unleashed through strategic elimination. To help you harness this powerful principle in your own life, I've developed the Momentum Map Challenge, a strategic 4-day exercise that will help you create unstoppable momentum toward your most important goal. Here's how it works. On day 1, identify your biggest current goal and spend 15 minutes listing every obstacle, barrier, or source of friction that stands between you and that goal. Don't judge or analyze. Just list everything that comes to mind, from practical barriers to emotional resistance. On day 2, review your list and categorize each obstacle as either external, environmental, or situational barriers, or internal, psychological or habitual resistance. This classification will help you see patterns and identify the most strategic points for elimination. Day 3 is your first active elimination day. Choose the smallest, most easily removable obstacle from your list and eliminate it completely. It might be as simple as removing social media apps from your phone, clearing your desk of distractions, or eliminating a self-defeating phrase from your vocabulary. Document how this small elimination affects your energy and progress toward your goal. On the final day, reflect on the impact of your first elimination and identify your next target. Create a simple weekly elimination schedule, choosing one small obstacle to remove each week. Remember, the goal isn't to eliminate everything at once. It's to create sustainable momentum through strategic, sequential elimination. The power of the momentum method lies in its compound effect. Like Derek's successful clients or Leah's transformed classroom, each small elimination builds upon the last, creating a momentum that becomes increasingly self-sustaining. The key is to trust the process and resist the urge to add more elements when you encounter resistance. Chapter 22. The Achievement Accelerator. Victor stood at the edge of the Olympic-sized pool, stopwatch in hand, watching his athletes with growing frustration. As one of the most sought-after swimming coaches in the country, he had access to cutting-edge training techniques, state-of-the-art facilities, and a team of dedicated athletes. Yet, something wasn't clicking. Despite adding more training sessions, incorporating new drills, and implementing the latest performance enhancement techniques, his swimmer's progress had plateaued. The breakthrough came on a quiet Tuesday morning when he arrived at the pool 2 hours early due to a scheduling mix-up. As he sat in the empty facility, watching the sunrise reflect off the still water, he noticed something profound. The environment was completely different. No other teams practicing in adjacent lanes, no spectators chattering in the stands, no phones buzzing with notifications, no pressure to perform complex drill sequences. When his first athlete arrived for an impromptu solo session, Victor decided to try something different. Instead of adding new elements to the training, he systematically stripped away everything that wasn't absolutely essential. He eliminated the usual background music, cleared the pool deck of excess equipment, and simplified the workout to focus solely on fundamental movements. The results were immediate and striking. His swimmer's form was cleaner, her times were better, and most importantly, she reported feeling more focused and energized than ever before. This sparked what Victor would later call his elimination epiphany, the realization that breakthrough performance comes not from adding more elements, but from simultaneously eliminating multiple sources of noise. Over the next few weeks, Victor completely redesigned his training program around this principle. He eliminated 3 major categories of noise simultaneously: environmental distractions, external noise, mental barriers, internal noise, and unnecessary drills, strategic noise. The impact was revolutionary. His swimmers began achieving in weeks what had previously taken months. It was like we had been trying to fill a leaky bucket by adding more water, Victor explained to his coaching staff, when instead, we should have been fixing all the holes at once. This simple insight would transform not just his team's performance, but our understanding of how breakthrough achievement actually occurs. This principle of compound elimination isn't just effective in sports. It's been proven at the highest levels of creative achievement. You can learn from the remarkable career transformation of Taylor Swift, one of the most successful artists of our time. While many attribute her success to her songwriting talent or marketing savvy, a closer look reveals that her biggest breakthroughs came from simultaneously eliminating multiple barriers to creativity and authenticity. During the creation of her album Folklore, Swift's management team made a revolutionary decision. Instead of adding more production elements or marketing strategies, they implemented what they called a triple elimination protocol. First, they eliminated all digital distractions by creating a technology-free recording environment. Second, they removed creative limitations by abandoning genre expectations and traditional song structures. Third, they eliminated industry pressures by keeping the entire project secret until completion. True innovation comes from removing barriers, not adding complexity, Swift explained in a rare interview about her creative process. When we eliminated multiple sources of noise at once, something magical happened. The music became more authentic, more direct, and paradoxically, more sophisticated. The results spoke for themselves. Folklore became one of Swift's most critically acclaimed albums, winning the Album of the Year Grammy, and connecting with audiences in a deeper way than ever before. But what's most interesting is how this compound elimination approach created a sustained acceleration in her creative output, leading to another acclaimed album just months later. It wasn't just about making one great album, her producer noted. By eliminating multiple barriers simultaneously, we created a new baseline for creativity. The acceleration effect compounded upon itself. This insight perfectly captures the power of the achievement accelerator. The idea that eliminating multiple sources of noise simultaneously creates exponential, rather than linear improvement. This principle proved transformative for Angelica, a first-year medical resident at Boston General Hospital who was struggling to keep up with the demanding pace of her program. Like many of her peers, Angelica had tried adding more study hours, more practice procedures, and more review sessions. But despite her best efforts, she felt increasingly overwhelmed and behind. Everything changed when Angelica discovered the Achievement Acceleration Framework through a medical performance workshop. Instead of adding more elements to her already packed schedule, she decided to implement 3 elimination strategies simultaneously. First, she eliminated external noise by creating what she called her focus bunker, a dedicated study space free from phones, notifications, and interruptions. She went further by eliminating all non-essential meetings and streamlining her communication channels to specific time blocks. Second, she tackled internal noise by eliminating her perfectionist tendencies and imposter syndrome thoughts. She developed a simple mantra, progress over perfection, and eliminated her habit of comparing herself to more experienced residents. She also eliminated negative self-talk through a simple thought-stopping technique. Third, she addressed strategic noise by eliminating unnecessary steps in her patient assessment process. She created streamlined protocols for common cases, eliminated redundant note-taking, and removed excessive double-checking that wasn't improving patient care. The combined effect of these eliminations was remarkable. Within 2 weeks, Angelica's efficiency increased dramatically. She completed her rounds faster, retained more information from her studies, and most importantly, felt more confident and capable in her role. It was like clearing multiple blockages in a pipe system, Angelica explained to her fellow residents. When you fix just one, you get some improvement. But when you clear them all simultaneously, the flow becomes exponentially better. Her experience demonstrates a crucial aspect of the Achievement Accelerator, the understanding that elimination strategies have a multiplicative rather than additive effect when implemented together. The most surprising outcome wasn't just Angelica's improved performance, but how this new approach created sustainable momentum. By eliminating multiple sources of noise simultaneously, she didn't just work better. She established a new baseline of effectiveness that continued to compound over time. To help you harness this powerful principle in your own life, I've developed the Triple Elimination Challenge, a focused 5-day exercise that will help you experience the compound effect of simultaneous elimination strategies. Here's how it works. On day 1, review all the elimination strategies you've learned so far and select 3 specific techniques that resonate with you. 1 targeting external noise, like notification elimination or environment simplification. 1 addressing internal noise, like negative self-talk or limiting beliefs, and 1 focusing on strategic noise, like unnecessary tasks or inefficient processes. On day 2, create a simple implementation plan for each strategy. Be specific about what you'll eliminate and how you'll track the impact. Remember, the goal isn't to transform everything at once, but to create clear, manageable eliminations that can work together. Days 3 through 5 are your active elimination period. Implement all 3 strategies simultaneously and maintain a simple journal noting 2 things: your energy level, rated 1 to 10, and your progress toward your primary goal. Pay special attention to how the strategies interact and support each other. The power of this challenge lies not just in the individual eliminations, but in their synchronized implementation. Like Victor's swimmers or Angelica's medical practice, you'll likely discover that the combined effect creates acceleration far beyond what any single strategy could achieve alone. Chapter 23. The Long Game. At 2 a.m., 16-year-old chess prodigy Samuel Zheng faced genuine doubt preparing for the International Chess Championship. Despite intensified practice and study, his rating stagnated. During a casual match, his grandfather, a retired math professor, exposed flaws in Samuel's complex strategy with a simple move. His grandfather's insight about solving problems through elimination sparked a revelation. Samuel abandoned advanced tactics to focus on fundamentals, eliminating unnecessary moves and identifying core patterns. Within 3 months, his rating jumped 200 points and his understanding deepened. This principle of strategic elimination extends beyond chess. Director Christopher Nolan demonstrates this in filmmaking. For Dunkirk, he stripped away typical war movie elements, focusing on essential themes of time, survival, and courage. During Inception, removing conventional elements made the complex story clearer and more impactful. Grace applied this approach to save her struggling fashion startup, EcoStyle. Through her sustainable elimination system, she cut 70% of activities not serving her core mission. Despite initial revenue drops, the company's efficiency, quality, and profits improved dramatically. The Legacy Journal exercise helps apply this principle. Day 1. Identify 1-year goals and necessary immediate eliminations. Day 2. Consider 5-year vision and long-term patterns to eliminate. Day 3. Examine 10-year horizon and structural changes needed. Day 4. Focus on lifetime legacy and align eliminations with ultimate purpose. Success comes not from constant addition, but from consistently removing what doesn't serve your fundamental goals. Chapter 24. The Legacy Factor. Lauren stood in her corner office on the 47th floor, packing the last of her personal items into a cardboard box. After 15 years as CEO of Global Innovations, her retirement day had finally arrived. The view of the city skyline hadn't changed much since her first day, but everything else had. The company had quadrupled in size, expanded into new markets, and transformed its industry. Yet as she prepared for her final exit interview, something unexpected weighed on her mind. The HR director had sent her a simple request: please list your most significant contributions to the company. It seemed straightforward enough, but as Lauren began writing, she noticed something peculiar. The achievements that had created the most lasting impact weren't the new initiatives she'd launched or the programs she'd implemented. Instead, they were the things she'd eliminated. She thought back to her first major decision as CEO, eliminating the company's infamous triple approval system that required 3 different departments to sign off on every decision. This simple elimination had unleashed a wave of innovation that continued growing years later. Then there was her bold move to eliminate mandatory quarterly strategy meetings, replacing them with an organic, needs-based system that saved thousands of hours annually. But perhaps most importantly, she'd eliminated the unwritten rule that new ideas had to come from senior management, opening the door for innovation at all levels. As Lauren sat down for her exit interview, the HR director asked about her proudest achievement. "You know," she began, "I used to think leadership was about what you build, but now I realize it's more about what you eliminate. The buildings we construct eventually need renovation, the systems we implement eventually become outdated, but the barriers we remove, that freedom continues benefiting people long after we're gone." This profound realization about the lasting impact of elimination isn't unique to corporate leadership. Notice Walt Disney's approach during the final years of his life, as he worked to ensure Disneyland would continue enchanting generations long after his departure. While many expected him to focus on adding new attractions or expanding the park's footprint, Disney took a surprisingly different approach. Instead of adding more elements to his already successful theme park, Disney became obsessed with eliminating barriers between imagination and reality. He spent countless hours observing visitors, identifying and removing anything that pulled them out of the immersive experience he'd created. He eliminated visible trash cans that reminded people of the outside world, created underground tunnels to prevent maintenance staff from breaking the magical illusion, and removed conventional queue systems that made people feel like cattle. The greatest legacy we can leave is the obstacles we remove for others, Disney explained to his team during one of his final planning meetings. Anyone can build something new, but eliminating what stands between people and their dreams, that's magic that lasts. This philosophy led to innovations in theme park design that continue influencing entertainment venues worldwide, decades after his death. Disney's insight about elimination as legacy became particularly evident in the park's sound design. Rather than adding more music or sound effects, he focused on eliminating ambient noise that detracted from the experience. His team developed revolutionary methods to control sound bleed between areas, ensuring that each theme zone maintained its unique acoustic atmosphere. This approach to elimination-based design became so successful that it's now standard practice in theme parks globally. Walt taught us that sometimes the most powerful additions come through subtraction, one of his original Imagineers later recalled. He showed us that by carefully eliminating barriers to belief, we could create experiences that would continue touching hearts long after we were gone. This perspective reveals a crucial aspect of the legacy factor, the understanding that our most enduring contributions often come not from what we create, but from what we remove. This principle of legacy through elimination proved transformative for Michael, a high school physics teacher approaching retirement after 30 years in education. Like many educators, Michael had spent most of his career adding new teaching methods, creating additional resources, and implementing new systems. But as he prepared to leave, he realized that his most lasting contributions might come from what he eliminated in his final year. Instead of developing new lesson plans or creating more teaching materials, Michael dedicated his last year to systematically documenting and eliminating barriers to learning that he'd observed throughout his career. He started with the physical arrangement of his classroom, eliminating traditional rows of desks that created artificial barriers between students. This simple change immediately improved collaboration and engagement. Next, he eliminated the standard practice of calling on students randomly, which he'd noticed created anxiety that blocked learning. Instead, he implemented a system where students could signal their readiness to participate, removing the fear factor that had prevented many from fully engaging with the material. But his most significant elimination came from carefully observing how students interacted with physics concepts. He noticed that many struggled, not because the ideas were too complex, but because traditional teaching methods created unnecessary barriers to understanding. He began eliminating complex mathematical formulas from initial concept introductions, instead focusing on helping students grasp the underlying principles through practical demonstrations. I realize that every formula we throw at students before they understand the concept is like building a wall between them and understanding, Michael explained to his colleagues. By eliminating these premature abstractions, we're not making the subject easier, we're making it more accessible. The results were remarkable. Not only did his students' comprehension and test scores improve dramatically, but something more significant happened. His elimination-based approach began spreading throughout the science department. Other teachers started examining their own methods, identifying and removing barriers to learning in their classrooms. Conclusion. When you first opened this book, I asked you a simple question. Have you ever felt like you're drowning in a sea of endless tasks? Now, as we reach the end of our journey together, I hope you've discovered a profound truth. The path to extraordinary achievement isn't about adding more. It's about mastering the art of elimination. Looking ahead, your noise-free future holds extraordinary potential. Imagine waking up each morning with complete clarity about your priorities, free from the mental static that clouds most people's thinking. Picture yourself moving through your day with purposeful intention, immune to the distractions that derail others. See yourself achieving goals with remarkable consistency, not through superhuman effort, but through the power of strategic elimination. This isn't just visualization. It's a realistic preview of what's possible when you fully implement the elimination strategies you've learned. But like any powerful system, these tools will need to evolve as you reach new levels of success. This is where the concept of evolutionary elimination becomes crucial. Evolutionary elimination recognizes that as you grow and achieve new heights, different types of noise will emerge. The distractions that challenge a beginning entrepreneur are different from those that face a seasoned CEO. The internal noise that affects a novice athlete differs from what impacts an Olympic competitor. Your elimination strategies must evolve accordingly. The key to long-term success lies in regularly reassessing and upgrading your elimination strategies. Every 3 months, take time to evaluate. What new forms of noise have entered your life? Which elimination strategies are working best? Where do you need to upgrade your approach? This regular refinement ensures your noise elimination system grows with you, remaining powerful and relevant as you achieve new levels of success. You may face challenges as you implement these strategies. Well-meaning friends might question why you're doing less. Colleagues might resist your new boundaries. Your own old habits might try to reassert themselves. Remember, these reactions are normal and even expected. They're simply forms of noise attempting to creep back into your life. The solution isn't to fight harder, it's to eliminate smarter. When others question your approach, let your results speak for themselves. When old habits resurface, use the clarity compass to identify and eliminate their triggers. When new challenges arise, apply the strategic incompetence framework to maintain your focus on what truly matters. You now possess something rare and valuable, the ability to cut through the noise that holds most people back. This isn't just a personal advantage, it's a responsibility. In a world where most people are drowning in noise, you can be a beacon of clarity and purposeful action. Your example will show others what's possible when you master the art of elimination. The path ahead isn't about sacrifice, it's about freedom. Freedom from the endless notifications that fragment your attention. Freedom from the social pressure to say yes to everything. Freedom from the internal noise that creates self-doubt and hesitation. Freedom to pursue your boldest dreams with clear focus and unstoppable momentum. This freedom comes with a challenge. Will you fully embrace the power of elimination? Will you have the courage to say no to good things so you can say yes to great things? Will you maintain your commitment to cutting out noise even when others don't understand? The answers to these questions will determine whether this book becomes just another interesting read or the beginning of a profound transformation. The tools are in your hands. The understanding is in your mind. The potential is within your grasp. Remember, every piece of noise you eliminate creates space for something extraordinary to emerge. Every distraction you remove unleashes more of your true potential. Every barrier you break down brings you closer to your boldest dreams. Your noise-free future awaits. It's time to step into it with confidence, clarity, and unwavering purpose. The journey of elimination never truly ends. It simply evolves into ever higher forms of achievement and impact. Welcome to your new reality, where less truly becomes more, where clarity replaces chaos, and where your boldest dreams become your daily achievements. The power to change your life has always been within you. Now you have the tools to eliminate everything that stands in your way. The noise stops here. Your extraordinary future begins now. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Remember, you're capable of so much more than you know. Now take the next step and make it happen.